Welcome to the Condor DM show, and tonight is interview night with a good guy here, very experienced guy, another second edition guy. I have a habit of picking those guys up. GM Cody. Say hi, my friend.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me. Really appreciate the invite. Always interested to talk gaming, especially old school gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great chance for us to get to know each other a little bit, but mainly for me to get to know you, because that's what I wanted to do tonight.
Yeah.
And we're not going to beat around the bush on this one. We're going to start. We're going to start right out of the gate, and we always go back to what I call the start. So you didn't start, but you were introduced to tabletop role-playing games in 1995, around the age of 9. And you first encountered it as, I'm going to let you tell the detailed story, but I'll just tell you of what I know here. You first encountered it at school, if I got that right.
That's correct.
And the first book you seen was The Monster Manual. Go ahead and give us that experience and how you ran into it. I know there's a bit more to that story. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was about 9 or 10. I can't remember the exact age or grade. I just remember the moment. I can remember loosely. It was around that time. So it was like 95, 96, somewhere in there. And we just started a new school year. And when I was a kid, I was a very awkward kid. I had maybe one friend, I didn't have a lot of friends. I kept to myself. I was really quiet, really shy, so all that. So I didn't really know anybody in the classroom. And so I'm sitting there in class and I see this kid up a couple rows from me, and he's got this massive curly fro, just mess of hair, right? And big Coke bottle glasses. I mean, just mega nerd, And I'm like, okay, this guy's probably, automatically I'm like, okay, I spotted one of mine. But he was reading a magazine. And of course, back then, some of the younger people watching this may not understand it, but like back then, like if anybody had a magazine at school, it didn't matter what it was, it like attracted your attention. It was a big deal. Like physical media was a big deal in magazines. If you brought one to school, it was like, what do you got there? It didn't matter what it was, Mad Magazine or Sports Illustrated or whatever. Like we wanted a part of that, because magazines were hard to come by when you were a kid.
Yeah.
So I saw this kid flipping through this magazine, and I could see that it was something different. There was something going on there. So I wanted to see what was up. So I got up from my desk to act like I was going to go sharpen my pencil. And right at that moment, as I'm coming back, he flips over the magazine, and it is a Warhammer 40,000 Citadel Miniatures catalog. And there's a Chaos Space Marine on it. It's the 1994 Citadel Miniatures catalog. And it's got a Chaos Space Marine word bearer on it, right? It's an awesome. I think Adrian Smith did the art. It's an awesome art piece, and I had never seen anything like that up to that point, and it just blew my effing mind, right? So I was like, "Whoa, dude, what is this?" And he goes, "Oh man," he was all excited. He's like, "It's this game. It's called Warhammer 40,000. It's a miniatures game." He's going like 100 miles an hour, telling me all about it. You play. You make your own battlefield, and you play with these toy soldiers that you got to paint yourself. And I'm just like, I mean, everything he was telling me I was into, because I was already into like history. I was really into especially military history. Any kind of warfare stuff really interested me. Fantasy, science fiction, everything he was talking about was in my wheelhouse. So immediately I was enraptured by this. So that kind of started my journey. And then like the same kid, we started like talking about Warhammer and stuff. We were too poor to like buy miniatures or anything. We would just fantasize about playing Warhammer and everything. But he's like, "Hey, I got this other game. Maybe you can figure it out." Like he wasn't very good at figuring out. He had a lot of games, but he didn't understand the rules, right? And so he was like, "Maybe you could figure out the rules for me." I'm like, "Okay, so bring it to me." So the next day he brings the AD&D second edition Monstrous Compendium. Actually, not the Monstrous Manual, the Compendium, the binder.
The one from 1989 to 1998. Yes,
yeah. So he brought the binder.
And that's awesome.
Yeah. And that blew me away even more. I was like, holy shit, what is this? Now, I had vaguely heard in the ether about Dungeons and Dragons. At that time, like I grew up in the South. I'm still in the South, but like at that time, there was still this kind of like taboo thing about Dungeons and Dragons. The Satanic Panic was still very much a thing here. Probably not in the rest of the United States.
Not Canada where I'm at, no. But probably not in parts of these states too. Yeah.
But in Tennessee, it very much was still a thing. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the only thing I knew about it, was this kind of like taboo, satanic panic kind of thing. But I started looking at this book and realized there's nothing like satanic or weird about this at all. This is, you know, King Arthur, and this is the stuff I'd been reading, right? This is Excalibur, this is Conan the Barbarian, this is all the stuff that I'd already like been exposed to. And so, you know, I'm looking through this and I realized it was a game, but I didn't really understand how to extrapolate. I realized there were parts missing here, you know, like, but I didn't know there was like a player's handbook and a dungeon master's guide and all that stuff. So I took what I could and just made up my own game based on it, and actually wrote a rule book.
That's awesome.
Without even understanding what a role-playing game is, I just made up my own role-playing game, essentially. And we played that for like a few months at school. And then eventually one of the kids in school was like, hey, yeah, this is a game. It's called Dungeons and Dragons. You're playing it wrong. I'll show you how to play. And he brought the player's handbook. And from there, you know, that's basically how the ball got rolling, right?
I want to pick up on something there, because I actually think you came into it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say you were doing it right or even wrong, but I'm not going to say you did it wrong, because I actually think the idea of picking something up and then, because so many have this experience, they don't read the books in full, they sort of make up things, but I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually, I love the way you came in. I love the fact that you didn't pick up the player's handbook. I love that you had to burn your mind in creativity and ideas, because that tells me that this is made for you.
Yeah.
It tells me that you're passionate about it. Automatically, I think that's just something you're feeding to me right now. The second he shows that to you, you're like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like it's that your reaction is, I'm in. No matter what other words you put it, it's I'm in. And going back and trying to make your own thing and then actually doing it and playing for months, that takes something, man. And you're going to learn. I think you probably learned a lot from that process early on.
So just to kind of build on that, you know, when I told my parents about this, they of course were not happy about it at all. They, you know, they all they heard was the rumors and stuff. They're like, you're not playing Dungeons and Dragons. We're not going to buy you these books and stuff. They didn't care about Warhammer and stuff though. So that was cool. For whatever reason, they didn't care about. They're like, okay, yeah, you can play Warhammer, but you can't play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, okay. So what I used to do is my mom would drop me off at the bookstore. I would go with a notebook and I would handwrite the rules from the player's handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide in a notebook. And then I would also just memorize everything. So when I was a kid, like by the time I was like 12 years old, I had that whole damn second edition player's handbook like memorized. Like somebody would name a spell, I could tell you exactly what it did. I could tell you, like, you know, I can't do that anymore, obviously. But
it's how you had to learn it, right?
Yeah, I had to learn.
Unlike other people, I've never heard too many people have to learn the books that way. So you're going to fucking memorize this. That's a great way to take that in. It's a terrific way to take that in. Right.
But so around the same time, I got into every other type of game too. We got into BattleTech. I got the BattleTech starter box that year for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Magic the Gathering, Axis and Allies. It was just like I got into gaming, and that's the thing about me. Like I'm not just a role player. I've always just been a gamer. I love games. I always have. Even before I got into role playing games, I was playing other types of games. You know, so. I've always been a gamer. That's always been a thing with me, and I'm just passionate about games of all different sorts. You know?
So in a way, 1995 is not really your introduction. You're already a nerd, and probably even a few years before that. But as far as being into specific things, 1995 is an introduction. But you're like, I'm there before he meets me.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, that's where I say I could hear the end part, but it sounds like. It's like, dude, you just have to find me. I'm already in.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Like I didn't know what role-playing games were. I didn't know what miniature games were, but like my dad was kind of a gamer in the 70s. He played a lot of these games behind me up here that are actually some of these Avalon Hill games, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, the Hex and Chit, the old school Hex and Chit war games. He played those back in the 70s. So when I was around that age, actually, right before I got into role-playing games and stuff, we started playing those games. We basically, my dad would come home from work if he didn't come home too late, because my dad worked late hours and whatever. But when he got a chance, if he was available, he'd play games with me. So we played chess, or we would play stuff like Gettysburg, or Jutland or whatever, these old games that he had laying around. So I kind of like already was, introduced to wargaming a little bit earlier, not too far before that,
What sounds almost crazy is he pushes back on the Dungeons and Dragons, but I'd almost look at him and go, you probably helped inspire you to lean into that. Like it's probably gaming with your father is a big portion of, hey, by the time you hit D&D, you can look at your dad and go, well, you helped me get here.
Yeah, well, see, my dad,
Yeah,
my dad is a nerd too, but he's a different kind of nerd. He's a very jockey nerd, right? So he played sports. He was a hunter. He grew up in the sticks in Texas. So he was a macho man. He really was a macho man. He was a tough dude. He has never liked science fiction or fantasy ever. He hates it.
Because he was a tradesman, like a carpenter or something.
Yeah, he's a carpenter too. Yeah. And he absolutely hates fiction. He doesn't like. He's an avid reader. In fact, he had a library of books growing up, and that's what I started reading. But it was all history and nonfiction. There was no fiction. If there was a few nonfiction books in there, but it was stuff like, Last of the Mohicans and Treasure Island. It was classics, So those were the first books I read, was like military history and like classic fiction, So
see, a lot of people, when I told people when I was younger, I'd meet a lot of war gamers that made fun of D&D as the fairy game, right? And they were like, well, no, it's all these war gamers crossing over. I'm like, no, even Gary says they had a hard time getting war gamers to cross over. And you had there's something, it's not even part of a question I have, but it's some other detail where you talked to a guy from the 70s who started in the 70s, and he told you that they mostly did role play.
Yeah. So, one thing I got really into at a really early age. I've always been this way. When I get into something, I'm like, I'm all in. You know what I mean? I want to know everything about it. I want to be the best I can at it. I want to have everything about it. Like, that's just the way I'm obsessive. Yeah. And so I have an obsessive personality. Sometimes that burns out. There's been things I've gotten into. I've tried a lot of things in my life. I've done all kinds of stuff. I've done karate, and I've done HEMA, and I've done skateboarding, paintball. I've done a lot of shit. Not all of it
was awesome.
Yeah, but not all of it has stuck with me for life. But some things have. Gaming has, music has. So those things have always stuck with me. But anyways, like, where was I going? I got confused.
We're talking with the 1970s guy who was talking about
yeah. So one thing I always got into was like, I wanted to know the history of stuff. So that's one thing about gaming, is instantly, not too long after I got into it, I was like, where did this come from? What is the origins of this stuff? And so I by myself started going back from second edition. I went back to first edition. I went back to AD&D, and I became obsessed with the history of role-playing games and gaming in general. Like I love to know where things come from. I love people to tell me their family history. I love to hear history in general. I love the history of anything. If there's a little old house I see down the road, I'm the one that pulls off the road, and I want to know all about it and stuff. That's just the way I am. So I talked to a lot of dudes that, played back then. I was really interested in hear their stories. Like it was really fascinating to me hear about, these. I met a lot of guys that started playing pretty much at the origin of the hobby. And I wanted to hear, what their experiences are. One of the most interesting stories I got, though, was this one guy was telling me that he was kind of trying to explain to me that, not everybody back then played dungeon crawls and, like they say they did today. Yeah. And I've heard this many times. This is not the only guy. I've heard this from a lot of people. Is the thing I think people don't understand is not a lot of people understood the concept of what this thing was. And if you look at the white box, which I have back there, it's a pretty confusing matter. It's not very clear what's going on there. And you kind of have to just extrapolate and make stuff up, And some people, I think, took that in different directions. And this is one of those guys. He was telling me, they played in college. They were playing with bootleg copies that somebody Xeroxed off, which seems to be, was very common at the time. And they were basically, really story gamers, what we would call like story gamers.
Like a theater troupe or something?
Yeah, they actually were. They were a theater troupe. Yeah, they were in theater. They were taking, a lot of them were theater students or whatever. They were all in that kind of thing. So But they would, you know, he was like, yeah, you know, we play D&D every night, but we hardly ever rolled dice. We were just sipping wine and like doing this basically, which nowadays you would call LARP, you know, and that was really interesting to hear. And this is like 1975 or 6 or something, you know, like, yeah, it's pretty crazy to hear.
If you hear about people today, they talk about how it's all chainmail and wargaming, and I'm like, I'm not saying that stuff like dungeon crawls and that happened. I don't deny that people played that way, but I would tell people most of it is pure theater of the mind because miniatures are really expensive. They use some chips. A lot of guys like the theater troupe you're talking about use this, and it's more up here in the imagination. And Gary said, I talked to Gary in person in a Dragon's Foot. I asked him about what he thought about D&D and how different people play the game. He's like, it was an experiment. We had no expectation that you played the dungeon crawl. And he said he realized a lot of the war guys that he was with in his old wargaming group did not cross over with him. They actually made fun of Gary and them almost like jokingly, but they pick on him like you're fair. There were some guys I met like your father. Chad type of guys, top tier, really strong that played wargaming, and they had no shame in that. You'll meet nerds, and then you meet some, like you said, jockey types and Chads that really do game in that. But I think there's even there's some Chads that ironically get into tabletop role playing games. I know you met one named Brandon at one point, but we don't get to dig. That's a little further down the line. But I know there's a Brandon guy. That was a bit of a Chad that you game with that like tabletop role-playing games. I have to admit there wasn't a ton of guys like that, but yeah, they don't tell my other friends what I'm doing.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, that's the thing. That's the thing is, man, I've got so many hours. I've got so many freaking hours logged in playing role-play games, right? I think I've played role-playing games probably longer than any other pastime in my life. Just because not anymore, like I don't do it as often as I did anymore, but in my younger days, it was like an everyday thing. You know, I drove everybody freaking crazy because it was like after school, I was like, hey, do you want to play a game? Let's play. Let's play Shadowrun. Let's play D&D. Let's play Marvel Superheroes. And I was like, I'd be over at the house getting out the books, and they're like, okay, Cody, you know, yeah, we can play. You know, at school, it's like lunchtime. I'd be like, all right, we ready to play? You know, like it was just like an all day, every day thing for me. You know, like it was constant. And so, but the other thing about that is I played with a lot of different people through the years, and everybody approached this concept differently. Every single person I've encountered has a different concept about what role-playing games are. And I think that's great. I think that's the beautiful thing about role-playing games is how abstract of a concept it is. You can approach it in so many different avenues, and it's perfectly valid, you know?
Oh, that's why I don't like people pigeonholing the hobby into one thing. That's why I push back against that personally, right?
Yeah, it's not one thing. And that's the thing. I have a preferred way to play. I've found what works for me, but that doesn't mean that I'm against what other people are doing. And that doesn't mean I won't play with somebody else either. I played with people that literally are just playing it like a board game. And I've played on the extreme other end where they're literally we're LARPing, you know? Yeah. We're not even playing like D&D at the table anymore. We're like in character constantly, like they barely roll dice, and we're basically doing a LARP, you know? Yeah. So I've been on both extreme ends, and I'm fine with any of that, you know? Now I'm somewhere probably in the middle there. But like I said, I've never had a problem with people approaching the game in different ways. And I think it's actually like it's a boon. It's not a bane. It's a good thing. Yeah. And I think it's also not a good thing when people criticize the way other people play. You know,
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because there are better ways to do things. You know, I've always strived to be better at what I do. I'm not the greatest at what I do, but at the same time, if somebody enjoys the way they enjoy doing it, let them be. You know, like let them do their thing. You're not. You can
slight things that I think you would agree with me on. Yeah. I don't mean to cut you off, but I'll bring this up just because we're on it. I say in general, here's a general thing. Mm-hmm. I think first off, actions become who you are. So I don't like lazy. And what I tell players is, I think it's the one general thing that benefits you is to care. Doesn't matter what you do. I don't care if you do the dungeon crawl or that you do the LARP with me. But the basic thing is, I think it's true. It's one of these
Mhm.
few general things that I think are somewhat true for everyone. It will improve their experience to care.
That's absolutely right.
That's it.
That's like the one thing I always
Yeah,
say is like come to the table wanting to do the
the
game.
thing.
Like I don't care if you're talking, like you don't have to bring voices, you don't have to dress up, you can just say, hey, I'm going to go to the bartender and ask him about some rumors. I'm perfectly fine with that. The thing, all I want you to be is engaged, right? Like engaged in the
Exactly.
game and with the group around you. And that's going to make a better experience for everybody.
Because
Yeah.
you personally, because guys like me and you come to it already caring. You don't got to tell us to make the effort. And I believe this about you. I'm just guessing. It's a theory that if a game master needed a good player who wasn't there to hurt the game and even help him if he was having a rough night, you're the right guy to have it at the table. That's what a lot of GMs said about me too. I was sort of like you. I'm there to have a good time.
Mm.
I'm not there to ruin your time or even make the GM look bad. So if I could help, I'm there to help to have a fun time. It's like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
GM, I'm not here to show you up. I don't got to make you. So you sound like the type of guy that shows up to the table where people would say, yeah, it's a good thing that GM Cody or Cody came to the table because you are there to improve because it's your experience too, right?
Well,
So yeah,
that's another thing. We're going off into all kinds of weeds. That's cool though. This is
that, yeah,
this is the best part of having conversations is we go off in weeds.
yeah,
But you got me on this point that I always bring up is, I hear a lot of people talking about, how to improve being a game master. 99 tips to improve being a game master. Well, I don't ever hear people talk about being a good player. And being a good player is as much of a difference as the game master. And
oh yeah,
and
it's a
and
team
there
sport.
yeah. And there is degrees. I'm this is not being elitist, but there is
Yeah,
degrees of people that are better. There is better and worse, like I don't disagree with that. I don't
yeah.
disagree with that. There is better ways to do things. There's worse ways to do things.
You just don't want to be a negative ninny about the whole thing.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
what you're
That's the
saying. Yeah.
thing. Like, at the end of the day, like if you guys are having fun, just have fun. Like if that's all. It's a freaking pastime, dude. It's
It's
supposed to
not a
be.
sport. We're not
It's
here
not
to
a
compete
sport.
that way.
It's not a competition. You're not winning any medals. Nobody gives a shit.
You're here to escape your stress.
Yeah,
You have
nobody
a good time.
cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares that you're the greatest game master in the world. Like outside in the real world, nobody cares about that. What
And
should matter is you guys are having a good time. Now, like I said, though, you can get better at what you're doing. And I've always tried to
of course,
strive
yeah.
to be better. And the thing is, a good player at the table should be pushing the rest of the table to be up to his level as well. Right. So I've
100%.
always stressed if I have a player at the table that's inexperienced or that is at a lower level of whatever, they're not as engaged or they're shy, introverted, whatever. I've always tried to nudge that person, to be more into the game. I think that benefits the game if that person is, is floating on the same water we are.
I heard you talk a bit about this on a Max Liao stream,
Mhm.
and you guys were on that subject about new players coming in. I liked a lot of what you had to say.
Mhm.
And I think we close to the same page on this.
Mhm.
I don't. I'm let you go, but I always expect, and I think you would agree that the players take care of them, not me. But here's what I will do: I don't force it, but if there's an opportunity with an NPC around, I'll have the NPC say hi to the new character,
Sure. Yeah,
just to
absolutely.
get them to speak out loud. And it's not me trying to help you,
Mhm.
but here's what I know it's not going to be a problem because the other players will understand and be cool that I'm doing that. So that's cool. I don't got to worry. And players, if you're not there being an ass, they want to bring you in.
Yeah.
So I don't worry about it because people talk about bringing in new people. I'm like, just if you got decent people playing with you, the players take care of other players.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing, like, I've had people that aren't interested in being like a top tier role player or whatever. They just want to be there and hang out and have a beer and just hang out with everybody. And that's fine. Like that's perfectly fine. As long as they're engaged and they're there to actually play and take it sort of seriously, I'm fine with it. Like I've had a lot
It's
of
a
people at my
respect thing.
yeah, I've had a lot of people at my table that, they just sit there and they're quiet. They don't want to like be in the spotlight. They just want to hang out with everybody. and they want to roll some dice, and that's cool, man. Like
as long as they don't interfere with what you're doing in that way, you can be quiet in the corner and roll the dice when it's time for the fight. That's cool. As long as you're not having a bad time either. I would tell them, look, after the session, I'd ask the new player, how was it? And if they tell me it's an issue with being a little quiet or something, I'd be like, again, I would privately tell the other players, hey guys, I leave it to you to take care of your own, right? And I'll still do the NPC thing, even with the quiet guy, but I'm not forced. This is, again, I don't want to bring the NPC in because the new player is there. It's just, oh, you went to the tent? Well, there's a guy there. Okay, I'll have him say hi to that new player. So I take advantage of what they create themselves. I don't force it. They create. You go to the door and you meet that. Oh, cool. I'll take advantage as a DM, and I can help the player, and they understand. But then the players know that I'm not catering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I'm not forcing that NPC in to kiss an ass of a player, because the other players want to know that I still give a shit about them, no matter who's new.
Yeah, I mean, you want to give, you want to give everybody their spotlight. It's hard. It's hard to do sometimes. It's difficult to do, especially when you have a player that's, hey, you got one of those guys that's very proactive, and he's pushing the game along, and he's doing good stuff, and you're interacting with him, and everybody else is like, you have to be mindful that there's other people here that want to have fun too, and you got to be like, okay, dude, that's cool.
Well, actually, here's something I do with those guys, and that you might appreciate. When I notice I have a guy like that because he's bringing the energy I want, and that's why he's there at your game too, and you do like him for what he does. It's not like you're really mad at him, but you do understand it can hurt in certain ways. So I'll turn to players like that and say, you're captain of taking care of new players when they come in.
Sure. Yeah.
And so then I got the guy who wants a spotlight, and then he'll be like, oh, because I trust you. I'll give him the rub. And I actually do like the guy. So it's not like even a bad thing that he's there. And I'm trying to blow smoke up in the wrong way, but I like you. And he'll know that I like him as a player, like the energy. But I'll be like, I know how energetic you are.
Yeah.
So I need you to make sure that new player isn't stepped on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just at least that one guy, or if I have two, then those two guys will have that little talk with me before the session.
Yeah, and usually that person's going to be the more experienced player, anyways. So if they're hogging the game, I will probably pull them aside and be like, "Hey, dude, like, look, these new people, can you help them out? Can you push them to the forefront a little bit? And hey, can you just tone it down just a little bit? This isn't our usual group, right? Like." So tone it down a little bit and help these people out more. And usually they're going to be, actually always in my case, like I can't think of a case where I've done that before. I've done that many times where I have like one really experienced dude and a bunch of really new people. Yeah. And I tell that guy ahead of time, I'm like, hey, can you like help everybody out? Like, help me bring this together. And he will usually, cause they understand too, that that's going to make a better game for them,
Yeah, the general thing of telling players that they're responsible for their own with new people coming in to help them get in. The second you just say something basic like that to players, it's almost like they feel good about being given that responsibility. It's always been a positive reaction I get from players where it's like, yeah, cool. We'll take care of the new player coming in. And just giving that, planting the seed in their head really lightly. I usually don't have to push back on the extreme guy if I start saying, well, hey, you're the guy that gives us all the energy. I love you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give you the responsibility of helping even your veteran players with you. I think she's having a hard time talking, man. Could you get her talking? And have a little talk like that. And I'm actually serious to the guy. I'm not like blowing smoke up his ass. You're the talkative guy. I want you talking to her because you got that energy and experience. So why don't you take your shine and do something good with it?
Yeah.
So get the shine, but you get to bring someone else into the picture. Now, I always tell players like this. I said, it's like, after the Seinfeld show was over, I was like, it's like Seinfeld here, guys. It's all better if there's more people with a part.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like I'm not a big fan of Seinfeld, but I like the concept of you could do it about one guy, or you could spread it out, and overall things get better because now you like the other person you're playing with. You're interested in their character, even though you're energetic. Now he's cool to play with, right? Because you allowed him to become cool. So I tell energetic guys like that, sometimes you're hurting yourself by not letting other players develop so you can have fun with them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a really important thing. Like you're here to have fun, but you're also here to have fun with them because we're a team. Whenever I hear about the great game master thing, I always say there is no such thing. It's a great game master depends on the players.
That's it. You're
That's it.
only as good as your players,
Yeah.
and the most challenging thing, like I'll give you an example. Recently I've been running a game. It's been very sporadic because I've been busy, but I've been running a MERP game offline
Oh, wow. Okay.
with some of my oldest gaming friends. The
Chase,
guys,
Andrew, stuff like
no,
that.
not Chase and Andrew. Actually, Chase is in that group. I'm sorry, Chase
Okay,
is in that group,
Chase.
and the twins, Andy and Vince, and my
Oh,
brother.
okay. The guys you were doing some shows. No, I
Yeah.
did it. Andy and Vince. Yep.
So we've been playing MERP offline about once a month or so, and so it's mainly been Andy and Vince and my brother. And so Andy and Vince are very introverted dudes.
Now, is this a shared GMing thing, or are you the guy?
No, I'm running the game. I'm running the game.
Okay.
So Andy and Vince are very quiet dudes. They're not proactive players. They've never have been. They're just very quiet. They're just quiet. They're just naturally quiet. Todd is my brother can be proactive when he wants to be, but he's actually pretty quiet too. So I'm stuck with like three dudes that are like really introverted and really quiet and don't want to be proactive. So I constantly have to and I hate doing that as a game master. My ideal way to be a game master is let the players drag me along. I want you to drag me along, and I want to react to what you're doing.
Sandboxy mindset.
Yeah. And now I'm in another way where I have to kind of, and I hate to do it, but I have to drag them along by the nose a little bit. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere because I'm saying, okay, this is what happens. This is where you're at. What do you want to do? And all I hear is crickets. So I'm like,
they make the game boring for themselves, and I think they don't probably realize that. It's like, dude, if you're not active, you're going to get bored.
Well, yeah, for sure. But here's the thing: like, it's basically I'm dealing with two people that haven't gamed in decades. The AD events haven't really gamed in a long time. Like they haven't done it consistently like I have.
Yeah. No,
Vince has a little bit, but he hasn't been as consistent as I have. Todd, my brother, is the same way. He grew up gaming with me, but he's not. He hasn't done it all the time. So I'm basically dealing with like three new players.
Well, here's what I got to ask you, because I bet this happens to you. You're an addict like me. See, you get good at your craft. You aim to get good at your craft. But when we get to a certain peak, we got to not be assholes, because we can start expecting from players what they're not going to be able to do for us. And then I don't know if it's happened to you personally. It's happened to me where I realize I'm getting cranky mentally, privately in my mind, that players aren't doing stuff. And I had to backtrack and go, okay, dude. And if I put challenges in front of these guys, it's how far is the challenge going to go? Am I expecting too much? Am I thinking a challenge that would be good for me? Because good for me, I don't perform them and figure it out. Mm-hmm. That means that challenge is probably going to blow them up if they're not those type of players. I'm just saying, has this happened? I'm asking, has this happened to you where you can get a little cranky with players?
I get a little frustrated with players, but not because of that. I get frustrated with players that are trying to derail the game more so. That's the only thing that pisses me off as a game master. If you're not as proactive, I'm going to make you proactive. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to make things happen. So the game is going to happen. The world is happening without you, and shit is going to happen. It's like, okay, we're not going to have, you're not going to pull this along. I'm going to pull along. Guess what? This just happened. This happened. This is happening. And it makes you, so I'm a very good at adapting. That's my main strength. I'd say that's my biggest strength as a game master.
You make the world come after them if they don't go after the world.
I'm very adaptable to my players. Yeah. As I will say, I get more frustrated as a player when there's a bad game master at the table. Yeah, and I'm good at helping that guy out. I want to help that person out, and I try to push the game along. Now, if they tell me, I'm a new game master, can you help me? Blah blah blah. I am I'm always like very understandable of everybody.
It changes your mindset approach when they're new. Yeah,
but I will say, deep inside, I get more frustrated in that situation than I do as a game master. Yeah, as a game master, I can do something. That's the thing. Like I can. If nothing's happening, I can make something happen. But as a player, if nothing's happening, I can make something happen, maybe. But like that doesn't mean something's actually going to happen, right?
Yeah, and then you want to make sure, like it's like little things. I talked about second edition combat recently, And I remember one of the first bad DMs I ran into. So I have my character look around the corner, and he tells me this monster is whatever, far away, really far away.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way in the action of the game rules that this monster would be able to move up on me instantly. And he's like, okay, you see him, and the monster runs up to you, roll initiative. I'm like, well, wait. He's like, well, what do you mean, wait? It's like, he's this far down.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me 2 seconds of breath so I can say, he starts moving towards me, I move away. And I always tell the DMs, I say this to them, it's always a principle I put on myself. You set things in stone. So players depend on you for the information. So if you give me something and suddenly the accuracy of that is no good to me, well, then how can I start playing your game properly?
Absolutely.
I need to understand, like, when you tell me something is real, that's real. So if he's that far away, I know he can't get to me right away. I can move the character before you say roll initiative.
Yeah. Now here's the way I do that. Like, so to me, you're not just the narrator. I also think you're the referee, and you're also the leader of the group, right? So like
multiple hats.
Yeah. You're multiple hats as a game master.
Yeah.
But you are like a referee, right? Like, in fact, I think that's what they call it originally, right? They called it a referee, not a game master. So whatever the game master says is law, but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, like you said, in your situation, it seemed kind of like, but I won't call him out and say, hey, dude, like, actually, but what I will say is, hey, can I, right?
Yeah.
Be nice, be like, hey, look, how far is he? Okay, can I do this? Would that make sense? And then, because the other thing I know too, I make mistakes as a game master all the time. I'm like, oh, the Umber Hulk's 100 feet and roll for initiative. And everybody's like, wait, whoa, hold on. But you slip up, you make mistakes, and
of course.
And so that's the thing, as a player, you have to be understanding and say, hey, dude, like, maybe can I do this? Or actually, I think it might be this. But if we're going with what you said, that's fine. That's the thing. I'm always like, you're the game master. You lay down the.
I've had DM. I had that DM said, what I said is go, Steven.
Yeah.
And just to give you, actually, because this is agreeing with you, that night, the first time I had that experience, and he said, well, what I say is law. He said exactly like that. I said, okay. I rolled the initiative dice.
Yeah.
And I stayed, and I never got cranky. I played good for the rest of the night. It was just one of those moments where it's the first time I ran in, because I had such a good first DM that when I ran to this guy, it was like, I had an experienced guy. So I just had a guy who'd been through some of those bumps already. Mm-hmm. And that's why I never ran into him. So when I ran into this guy, it was, I'm young, a kid like we are, right? And it was just one of those, hey, what's up with this? And he's like, no, if I say it, Steven, you got to go with it. And the second he said that, my old DM told me, referee is the authority. So, and if you don't like his thing, get it from the table, but don't sit at the table and question it. If he says,
well, there's nothing wrong with questioning
but if he says final word,
that's it. Yeah. That's it's like, hey, you can bring it up the question, but if he says that's it, you just keep going. Don't get frustrated. Just keep going. That's the other thing, though. If you're dealing with like somebody that's inexperienced or bad, you questioning them is making them better, right? Because they're thinking in their head, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Even if they make a bad ruling, it's still in the back of their mind. They made a bad ruling or made a mistake or whatever. Yeah. And that makes them better, right? So there's that is, again, the good players are going to be like, actually, could we do this or that? Or wouldn't this be the situation? But he might say no.
Yep.
That's fine. But at the same time, you still put that thing in his brain, that piece in his brain that, hey, maybe I did something wrong here. Maybe I need to reevaluate that. Maybe I need to read the rules there for that situation.
And it's always better when the session doesn't blow up on that guy.
Yeah.
Like there's that moment, but for the rest of the session, we get through. At least he has time to think about it. It's if it blows up on him, you don't want that happening. So I was like, okay, very happy. Though, like you said, it's planting the seed. So later he actually started being more concerned with saying how far monsters were away. And he understood the first time I questioned him. He's like, okay, Steven, this time the monster is this far away from you. And he said, what do you do? So, instead of saying initiative.
Right.
I was like, thank you. Well, I never said thank you, but mentally I'm saying to myself, thank you. and I'll take him in. And if you do want the guy here, fine.
Yep.
Right. Like if he's this close, fine. If I turn around the corner, it's like, but he's looking at me right in my face. I'll be like, all right, I'm rolling. Am I rolling? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like now I'm ready to go initiative. But it's like, if you give me that space, that detail is so important.
Yep.
Right. But let's we're doing great. But I got some
absolutely
another question. You are forced at times to be the forever GM.
Mm-hmm.
You call yourself GM, Cody.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to ask you a simple early question. What do you prefer more? Or is there like both? Do you prefer game mastering or playing?
So here's the thing. I don't really consider myself a forever GM. I was forced into being a GM because nobody else knew how to play these games.
Yeah.
And when at a young age, I was very good at reading. I had extremely high, I still do, but when I was a kid, it was insane. My reading comprehension was out the roof, right? That was the one thing I had as a kid. Like I could read something and spit out everything to you. And so,
awesome.
You know, teachers would just be like, holy shit, you know, like my reading comprehension was just out the roof. And so I could comprehend games like nobody's business. And I'm above average intelligence. I'm not like a genius or anything, but as a kid, I could read a rule book and like, you know, 10 minutes later, I could be like, close the rule book. I'd be like, okay, we could play. And I could, whatever the game was, we could play. You know,
you could take in knowledge in a better way. It's like some guys.
Yeah.
It's like if I give you a book and you read it once, you'll get a lot out of it. There's some guys out there that probably need to read it 3 times to get a lot of what you're getting out of it. And it's not that you're a super genius, and they can keep up with you if they want to read it more than once. They can catch up to where you're at, no problem.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody has certain strengths and skills. That's always been a strength of mine. Actually, it's not. My reading comprehension is probably not as good as it was when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, I was reading constantly. You know, so it was probably higher as a child than it is now because I don't get a chance to read as much as I used to. But I was forced into being a game master. Now, when I got into really serious gaming in middle school, I got invited to a group that already had a game master, and he was older, and he was a forever GM, and he was very good, by the way. Yeah. So his name was Dustin. It's not. Yeah. I'm not doxing anybody. I'm just calling out first names, by the way.
Of course. Yeah. Of course.
I've named all those people. I don't even know if Dustin's still alive, to be honest with you. Unfortunately, because he kind of went through like. He fell in with the wrong crowd later on in life. But Dustin was older than us. He was in the 8th grade. We were in the 6th grade. And my friend and band invited me to come play with them. So he had 2 groups. He had a middle school group and he had a high school group. And he ran 2 games every Friday night. So he would run the middle school group for the time we got off school until about 9 or 10 o'clock. And then the high school guys came in and he played with his like older guys. Mm-hmm. And I played with both groups because I always got along with older people. I don't know why that is. And the older guys always liked me. So, you know, I'd stick around late and play with those guys too. Mm-hmm. And I was the only guy invited to play with them. You know, they were like, Cody, you could stay, you know, and I'd stay, you know. So
think about anyways, you had the mind for this. If you're mature enough to have the mind for it, a lot of guys, older guys are like that.
Yeah. So I think that's, you know, I've always gotten along. I'm a millennial, but I've always had like a Gen X mindset. And that's only because I hung out with a bunch of Gen X dudes, you know, I are late millennials to Gen X is the kind of people that I hung out with when I was young. And so that's I kind of have a lot of Gen X mentality and still get along better with Gen X people than I do with millennial people. But anyways, that's besides the point. So basically from middle school to high school, we had a game master that was the forever game master. Now in high school, it was a different guy named Jason. He ran the games in high school. But when they weren't running games, I would run games. I was always the fallback guy. It's like, hey, I'm going to take a break, Cody. Will you run a game? Or let's run a one shot tonight. Or Dustin or Jason's not around. But we want to play a game. I'm like, okay, I'll run a game.
You're the safety.
So I was always the fallback guy.
Yeah.
What happened is after high school, we didn't have a forever GM anymore. Everybody went off their different directions. That like it always happens in high school. Jason went off to college in Florida. A lot of the guys that I played with in high school went different ways. Some of them stayed around, and the guys that stayed around,
yeah. Because some of you split off at certain points, right?
Yeah,
Even
absolutely,
before the high school.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I became the GM, right? And then I realized that I'm the forever GM now because nobody else wants to do it. So now I'm the guy that has to run the games all the time. Even though I had been GMing since the time I was really young, now I'm actually like running campaigns, like long term, and everybody's depending on me every week to run a game. So that's really when I became like the forever GM, and it's been that way basically since the end of high school. I would say. So before that I was like a part-time GM, part-time player, and now I'm mostly a game master, but luckily through YouTube.
Through YouTube, yeah.
I've actually got to. I get to play again. You know, people invited me to be a player again, which is great. Awesome. For years I haven't been able to be a player hardly at all, and so I love playing. So I would say I love to play when the game master is good. When the game, and this is not me being arrogant, and I don't like elitism or whatever, but
I actually think that's a common sense answer for a lot of people. That's probably the same, like an honest answer for a lot of people.
But right. I don't like playing in games when there's a game master that's lesser ability than me. And it's frustrating unless they're a new person. I love helping new people out. If they're like, hey, I want to run a game, I'm like, dude, do it. I'm gonna help you every step of the way. Yeah. I'm there for you, man. I'm gonna make you a game master. I love seeing people get into it. But when I played in so many games with people that are just terrible game masters and think they're good, you know, that's the difference. You know, somebody that wants to take criticism. That's the thing. I want to take criticism too. I want to grow too. After every game, I'm like, hey, did you guys have fun? I'm serious about that. I'm not just asking you. And I want to know what you guys want out of the game. What did I did wrong? Like, and we've always had these discussions after every game, and I take them to heart, right? Because I want to be better. And so that's the thing. Like, I love being a player when it's a good game master. If it's a bad game master, I don't like being a player. And then I just want to be a game master because I'm like, I could do this better. Right. So here, the thing is, I don't think I really have a preference. I can go back and forth easily.
I get what you're saying. You can't say you like one more than the other. They're both good in their own ways, and you like doing. And in all honesty, the forever GM thing is not just partly for the players, partly for you because you're an addict, and it gets to a point if someone's not going to run the game and you want a game. Well, part of that thing is for you, like your own experience. Like almost you could become a forever GM for you, because if without you don't get the game.
That's it. Right?
Yeah. So that's a weird thing, right?
There are a few other people that I've had in my circles that have ran games from time to time, but they're not full-time game masters. You know what I mean?
Is it like where you mix, like where you have some, you step in, the other guy steps in, and they're doing good enough that it's not like bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's like he steps in for a little bit, but you're not depending on him to blow up a longer part of the game. It's like he steps in for a bit, you step in. I get that. And it's like as long as it can take your lead, it usually gets guys not performing too bad.
Sure.
Right? So I would imagine some of those cases you're taking lead, but you got a couple other guys that are going to run some sessions in that mixing. Right?
Yeah. You know, and there's always been somebody that like, hey, I want to run this game. You know, it might be a game. Here's the thing though. There's a lot of games I don't like. Right. But I always tell everybody, like, I don't want to run that game, but if you want to run it, I'll play.
Oh, yeah. Well, playing is a different view on things. And it's like you say, no matter how bad a game is, with a good person running it, they can make it fun.
That's it.
Let's jump to another one.
Yeah.
At one point, you started with 3rd edition. Clearly, you invested a lot of time into that system. Mm-hmm. Tell me what appealed to you and your group about that game, because I know you put some serious time to that game. And that
I did. So here's the thing. I got into role-playing games right at the end of, in my opinion, the golden era of role-playing games, which was the 1990s. But I got into it like in the later half of the 90s. So the 90s, it was waning when I got into it. D&D was on the downslide. D&D was the game that nobody played. Mm-hmm. When I got into D&D and I went to the game store and I talked to the older guys, they're like, D&D sucks.
Palladium.
They were playing
Vampire.
Rifts. They were playing Vampire the Masquerade. They were playing Torg. They were playing all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Anything but D&D. D&D was not the cool game to play.
No.
So it was on the downslide. Now, my guys, we still play D&D. We still loved AD&D second edition. That's what we were playing. We played all kinds of stuff too. You know, we played GURPS and we played Gamma World and we played. It was just everything.
Eternity, I think, is one of those last games you also. But I mean, we don't get big into it. But that's another one of those games, right? That I've heard recently. I think on the Barracks thing, they were talking a lot about that game.
Yeah. So you know, when third edition came out, this is right around the time that I started playing with Dustin and his crew, because that was right around the time third edition came out. We were playing AD&D second edition, and then one night we showed up, and he had gotten the third edition book the day it came out. He's like, "Hey, we're going to play third edition." I had heard rumors about it. We'd all been excited about it. We didn't know anything about it because the internet was in the infancy. I didn't have the internet at that time. Most of the guys didn't have the internet.
Sort of go back to your magazine stuff. You were saying how important that was back in the day. Yeah. That's because there was no cell phones or internet. So that was a big way of looking at things.
Yeah. I mean, the internet was around, but it wasn't what it is now. Yeah. And most people didn't have it, at least where I lived. Like my family didn't have the internet in the year 1999 or 2000.
Because now they would show, here's the pictures of the Mech Warrior game on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. So we really had no idea what to expect. Dustin was just like, "Hey, we're playing whatever Dustin said we did." You know, one night he would be like, "Hey, we're playing Dark Crystal and we're using GURPS." And we'd be like, "Okay," because he's running the game. He'd be like,
once you know that guy is good at running the game, he can run anything as long as you're going to have a good time.
And he did all the time. We would switch up games. Now we would always go back to D&D. That was always like the mainstay, but we'd always deviate occasionally, because he'd get some wacky idea in his head and we'd do something. So third edition D&D came out. One night we show up. He's like, "Hey, we're not continuing our AD&D campaign," which I was really disappointed with because we'd been playing for a while. I was like level 7, which is great. You know, we were like, that's high level. You know, we've been playing for a while. And I was like, "Man, come on. We're getting into the juicy stuff." He's like, "No, we're going to make new characters. We're going to start a new campaign. We're going to play third edition D&D. I'm like, "Okay." So he hands me the book. Totally different. Like it took me forever to make. I remember all of us like scratching our heads, like, what the hell is this? You know, like we're skill points, and you know, we're like, it's literally like we're upside down and all this stuff, because it was just a totally different game. It took us a while to wrap our heads around. This is D&D now, you know, because we've been playing AD&D second edition for so long. But we figured it out. You know, pretty quickly. I was like, "Okay, guys, this is how it works," and like, you know, this. You know, it's basically everything's like roll high, all that stuff. So we figured it out. We made characters. It took a while, and we started playing. And I didn't really like it at first, and the other guys didn't like it either, because it was just so different. It was such a drastic departure from what we were used to. And we were like, "Yeah, we don't want to do this anymore." And we just went back to AD&D second edition.
Because it sucks for a lot of guys. You build yourself up to here.
Yeah.
And you got to, as a hobbyist, you got to be very careful. The companies should know they got to be very careful. When you build yourself up to here, this is why basic guys, the guys that play basic, had a hard time in going to advanced first edition, and they got mad about a lot of them, because you're telling a hobbyist, "Okay, you trained to be here. Now you're starting back down here." And they're like, "Wait, I invested years to get here.
Yeah.
Are you telling me I got to start over again?" And so that's where I thought like second edition was always a good way to advance the hobby, is for hobbyists, because if you're good at AD&D 1, you're going to be good at second edition.
But what happened though is later on we had like a splinter group happen. There were a lot of the younger guys that didn't want to show up to Dustin's house anymore, and they wanted me to run the game. So we kind of stopped playing with Dustin, and we kind of started our own group, and I was running the game full time, and they wanted to play third edition. They were all into third edition. So I started running third edition because that's what everybody wanted to play. That was the hot thing. I didn't mind. And, you know, at the time I'd say, you know, it wasn't my preference, but I didn't hate it, right? Like I got used to it. And then by the time I got to high school, I met a completely different group, because all those guys from middle school, give me just a second. I got to turn off the camera, but I'm going to keep talking.
Yeah.
So after high school, like after middle school, all those guys from middle school went off in different directions, because all those guys lived in a different district. So they went to a different high school, and I basically had to start all over again and meet new people.
Well, you met a young lady close to the end of your middle school, and she actually went to high school with you. Did she
That's
stay in
correct.
your group?
Yeah, she
Oh,
did.
she stayed with you. Okay.
Yeah, she did. She was actually my first girlfriend too.
Yeah, yeah,
So, yeah, she did. And there were a couple people that stayed around, like Andy and Vince. They went to the same high school
cool. And you were even
as me
confused.
and
I think
a
you were
couple other
confused by
people, but
one.
I met a
Yeah,
completely different group of guys.
I hear. Go on, sure.
And they were those guys were playing third edition D&D. That's what they were playing. So I just, that's what they were playing. That's what I played. So I quickly fell into it. I had no problem adapting to it. It was not my preference, and I'd always be like, hey, I'd always bring my AD&D books like in my backpack. I'd be like, hey, can we play second edition? They'd just be like, no. They loved it. So that's what we played all through high school. Was it was the hotness at the time was D20, and that's what they wanted to play. And we played so much of it. We played hours and hours and hours of it. So it was fine. I don't actually hate the D20 system. I think it was fine for D&D.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with the D20 system, like the basic D20.
I think it was fine for D&D. Yeah. I really don't like the D20 system for everything else. Like I think it worked for D&D. Okay, it's not my preferred version of D&D, but I don't think it's the worst version of D&D. Like third edition's probably like it's not like it's like somewhere in the middle for me. Like if somebody's like, hey, would you run a third edition game? I'd be like, absolutely. And at this point, honestly, it's kind of nostalgic for me to be real, because we played so much of it back then that like it's as nostalgic for me as second edition now, because we played just as much third edition as we did AD&D second edition. And after that, I went back the opposite because I was so tired of third edition. I went back to the source. I started running first edition. And I started running OD&D, white box and stuff. And everybody's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, dude, we got to play. I got so obsessed with the history of it and wanting to go back and see what I was missing. I got really into running that, so I started running that all the time.
It's one thing to have a game sort of telling you what to do, but you sort of forget when you get back to that old school freedom of you got to make a lot of it up, but then it just gives you like, hey, player, do whatever you want. It's such a different game that people will think it's old. Like it's old. That's the de-evolved version of what we're doing. I'm like, no, it's not. That's just a different version of what you're doing. Well, and there's just a different take on it.
And that's the thing, right? Like, my players quickly really loved it, right? At first they were kind of like, no, we don't want to play first edition. And then we started playing it and they're like, oh, this is really cool. This is really different,
I wish we could do that with 5e people, what you did with your group there, because 5e people that deny this stuff, I'll be like, you are missing out.
Well, I think it was a different mentality too, because again, back then, I say back then, it wasn't that long ago, but at least 20 years ago at this point, but it was long enough where people were still playing at the table all the time. And, you had your group and that was it. And whatever the game master's running, you were like, okay, that's what we're playing. And you just had to accept that. Otherwise, you don't have a game. So when I say I'm running AD&D first edition, everybody's like, okay, that's what we're playing. But at the end of the day, everybody started having a lot of good fun with it, and we started having a blast. And so, at this point, I've literally played every edition of D&D comprehensively, so like I got obsessed with wanting to know like all the nuances of D&D. And so
here's a quick question.
Yeah.
I know you like third edition nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Just a quick rundown, because I know just a quick on fourth and fifth. What are your takes on those two?
So I didn't like fourth at all. It's probably I mean, I know that's like the cliche thing to say, but I gave it a fair shot too. I gave it a fair shake. I really wanted to like it. That's the thing. I bought it day one. I went to the store. I bought it when it came out. I was excited to run it. I ran it that night. I was so excited to play fourth edition. It looked great on paper. Everybody in my group, even the third edition guys were like, we don't like this. There was only one guy in the group that liked it. And he was a World of Warcraft guy. And he got it. He understood it and he was all into it. And I hate to use that cliche again, but he understood it because that's kind of what it was. I feel like it was designed for.
A lot of those guys said that's actually I've heard that. You're not just the first person to tell me that. So. Wargaming guys, at least that like to involve a lot of wargaming in their tabletop role playing, sort of that mindset, they definitely appeal to fourth edition. But
not Wargamer. I'm sorry. I'm World of Warcraft. Wow.
World of War.
Yeah.
Oh.
MMO guys. Like I had
Video game guys.
Yeah, I had an MMO guy at the table, and he instantly got it. He loved it. He bought every book for fourth edition. He was all into
it. Leans into the video gaming stuff, and it does.
It absolutely did. And it had all the stuff from like MMOs, right? And you're right. It did have a lot of that miniature wargaming stuff built into the game. And so, yeah, I had some wargamer guys that really liked it just for that. You know, they got to get their miniatures out, and you know, I pushed back 10 feet and all this stuff. You know,
did you find 5e went sort of back closer to the third edition stuff, or how do you feel about that?
I really had high hopes for fifth edition again. I bought it the day it came out again. You know, because I'm a fan. You know, I'm a fan of this stuff.
You're open-minded.
And
you don't care what people say. You're willing to give it a chance.
Yeah, I wanted to give it a chance. I ran it, many campaigns of it. I just couldn't get into it. And one of the things I found about it was actually more. It was like fourth edition light, right?
Yeah.
And if I wanted it, they were trying to. They took out a lot of stuff from like fourth edition, and I thought they were going back to more like third edition. But really what it was, after I played it more comprehensively, was we were playing fourth edition light.
Because they're still leaning into the video game stuff, which I sort of get. And there's a side of me for this is the business part of WotC, that as much as you can be mad at them, it's like, look at TSR. They didn't play to some of this stuff, and it drove them down. They were old nerds that were like sort of like their own customers.
Yeah.
They're not going to make the thing that appeals to the majority. But WotC understood, I think they get it. It's like, if you want us to make products for you, we need money. And it's like, that has to happen. And you can't keep putting stuff out and it drags down. And you're right about the second edition to fall off and with TSR, which is a shame. But sorry, WotC is that part. WotC is Hasbro backing it up, right? So it's a shame that when I hear people go, WotC's going to be out or sell it. They made some bad moves from 5e and 4e, but I'm like, it's a shame. Unlike TSR, they'll remain. There's no way Hasbro will let that go. There's too many other things to do with it. But yeah, it's a shame. I tried 5e too. I felt video game, and I played the Baldur's Gate 3, and you're like, you play it, and you're like, I get it.
It works really good for a video game. Give me just 1 second. I got to step away for just a minute.
Not a problem.
Really quick, and I'll be right back.
Yeah. It can be a chance to look at chat here. Squirrel Hermit, if you're still around. Hey, Stephen Kennedy. Hey. I hope you guys are enjoying the conversation. Like, GM Cody's a really interesting guy, and there's so much, and we're getting on a good run. It's so hard to interrupt and want to say, like, just respond to some of you guys here. So I'll take a pause now and do it, and we'll try to take some more pauses during this interview, and every so often put some things up. Of course, Stephen, I know you run your BX. And yes, referee, absolutely there, Squirrel Hermit. And hey there, hi there, ho there, Barracks GM. How you doing? And greetings, Doc Flamingo. What's up? Now, some of you guys that already know Cody, you probably know a lot of stuff you're hearing here, and he's probably told you the story more than once, and I would imagine. Oh, just feed. Yeah, I hope you really are enjoying the conversation. Good blabbering. Well, that's the idea. So I got these questions to trigger the talk, and I just don't want to stop it if it goes somewhere good. Like, if I feel like we're just hitting on stuff, and it's like, yeah, I break for a few questions here, but it's like, if I get him going good, I want to get the best out of him. I want to, and personally, I want to know this stuff, right? Cody's an interesting guy. Welcome back there, Cody.
Thank you, sir.
The guys, it seems like people are really, really enjoying this gimmick. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so, my basic breakdown of like D&D editions, like third edition. I don't have anything against third edition. I never did. Like I know there's a lot of hate in the old school community about third edition D&D. I don't have a problem with third edition D&D. I think it did some good things for D&D. Fourth edition, I don't like it all. I know some people that love it. Fifth edition, it's just more the same to me. So
yeah, I think they went in a bad direction.
Yeah,
but I agree with you on the third edition. I'm not a fan of it. I never did the third edition thing, but I was friendly. You might hear me say like some of the stuff I criticize other people, like I don't like this or I don't like that. I'm still like, to me, see, in person, you don't get the heat with people. It's like I say, I don't like that, and the guys are like, cool. Yeah, and we all get along and we go have coffee together, like we're all friendly. Like same thing with the third edition crowd. During the so-called edition wars, they would come in and chat with me all the time, online, in person, and go, we can go talk to Steven over there. Well, isn't Steven like an old grognard that's going to hate you? Steven might not like game with us. He might even tell us what he actually thinks.
Yeah.
But he won't say go away. And he'll be polite to us. And when I go in, hey guys, what's up? Go see how they're doing. I come from a world where it's okay to not like and be open about that, but nobody hates each other. I find that a weird dilemma online sometimes when people.
It is a weird thing. It used to be we could have a disagreement and have a conversation about it and go get a beer at the end of the day. Now it's we got to personally attack each other over our differences of opinion about games about freaking elves and wizards. You know, at the end of the day, like, you know, these games, as much as I love them, they're just fantasy games about elves and wizards and shit. You know, like it's not really that important. You know,
I love the people in the hobby.
Yeah.
When I say something and people get mad at me, I'll have guys that I like getting mad at me. I'm like, guys, like I'll see a YouTuber get mad. I'll be like, I like you. Like I know you're mad at me, but I like you and I like your content. And I actually watch it all the time. But I know I said something that's about a game. I always hope not to.
That's the thing. I don't get upset about people. You know, if somebody says, you know, AD&D second edition is the worst version of D&D or whatever, I'd be like, okay. Actually, there's probably some valid points there. Actually, there's a lot of bad stuff in AD&D second edition.
No game, all these games are broken.
All these games have problems, you know.
So if you want to criticize any game, I think they're all broken. If you say second edition is broken, but I'm like, my experience with it, with whatever I did, is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about, like, I don't deny second edition has issues, but I'm saying I, like many other people, took care of what I thought the issues were. And then I look at the experience I had after taking care of the issues. And I go, for me, that was great. For you, if the original was the greatest thing ever, I'm on your team. We don't have to agree, but I'm happy. I'm very supportive of other people doing other things. That's why, again, I'm a pure theater of the mind guy, but I'll go buy miniatures for my miniature friends that love me. And I got wargaming friends who all show up and go, you got this team, right? Did you have these three? No, man, you got a pack of these three? Like, I go and I'll see if I can do a find on wargaming pieces for the Warhammer stuff, right? I don't know much about it, but I'll get to, they'll nerd out to me and tell me what they're, and I'll be like, okay, I'll see if I can find that at Christmas or your birthday. And if I hated these people, why would I ever do something like that? I wouldn't do it. So to me, it's all about, we're a social crowd. I always believed, at least in person, it's a hobby. It's meant to get along. And I get we're nerds, but I always thought that was a great thing for nerds, especially antisocial nerds. I'm like, well, I mean, I can break that shell for, like, break the little bit of that ice, crack the ice, get you out of that zone and talking to people.
It definitely did with me, right? It helped me. I mean, I can only speak personally. I don't think this is the case for everybody, but for me personally,
it is for a lot.
It helped me tremendously in that department, right?
A girlfriend.
The
friends.
I mean, everything. Like it helped me become a better leader, a better person. You know, it helped me become a better
social confidence.
Confidence. You know, I did after I started gaming, I started doing all kinds of stuff, right? I got into music. I'm playing in bands. I'm like on a stage playing in thousands of people. I'm talking to people. Everybody, you know, I can talk to everybody.
You do credit that social aspect of building up your confidence through gaming like that.
I do, absolutely. Yeah, if it wasn't for that, I don't think maybe there would have been something else, but that was the thing that did break the ice for me. It forced me to be that way because it's a social game. You have to interact with people to have a good time. If you don't, yeah, like we were talking earlier, you can just sit around and be quiet and whatever, but you're not going to have as much fun if you're doing it. You know, like I figured out pretty quickly, I got to interact with these guys. I got to get to know them, you know, and honestly, also my best friends in life I've met through gaming. They're still the friends that that my best friends today, like the guys that I would take take the shirt off my back for, are the guys that I gamed with back in the day. Right.
See, I've had guys come up to me, like you say, this sort of almost in a way saved your life from what it could have been in a bad way. You pick up, you meet people, it changes your confidence. I had guys come to me years later, and I had a hard time really taking it in. But they would come to me and go, Steve, remember when you first met me and you came over to me because you weren't shy, but I could barely speak to you? He said, you saved my life.
Yeah.
Because he's a very confident guy now, but I'm not shy at all. So, and that's why I could be the guy I was, a public DM and all this. So I would go with the guys, and I had to meet more guys like you later to really believe. Like he'd come up and I'm like, you're blowing smoke up my ass. He's like, no, Steven, if I didn't meet you that day and didn't do the gaming, I don't know where I'd be. And he was so depressed. He thought about, don't want to talk like the S word. You know what I mean? Like I ending things. And then he meets me because he has no friends, no nothing. He's like, here's this crazy guy who comes up to me out of nowhere when nobody would talk to me.
Yep.
And just because, how can I say, I wasn't exactly nerd, but I game with nerds. So I'm not looking for Chad. I'm actually recruiting. Like nerds would get weird too. They come around, people ignoring them, and they're like, why is this guy looking at us? Like paying attention, because I'm like, you're my people. So I confidently got the guys, and I had a bunch of guys where I dragged them out of these spots. And again, that guy, I thought it was blowing smoke up my ass. But I met some other guys like you who gave me these stories and went, maybe I did something for him. I'm no hero.
Oh, just for sure. But maybe I can help. Gaming definitely, it's not everybody. It hasn't done that for everybody, but for some people, it's been a big benefit. It's been a big benefit. And I've heard that from a lot of people. People ex-military with PTSD, to people that are just antisocial, to people that can't relate to society, all kinds of different problems. I mean, our game master at one time had, I'm not even exaggerating, he had 3 or 4 major mental conditions, but I think that gaming really helped him cope with that. Now he doesn't even take medication for any of that.
It's almost like therapy for some.
Yeah, it is. It can be like therapy. Now it shouldn't be treated.
Let's be careful with our language.
It shouldn't be treated like therapy, because I've been in those situations where it's like, okay, dude, like this is getting weird now, but at the same time, it can be therapeutic, and I think it's a very healthy thing, especially for
in a more common sense way,
especially for young, creative, above average intellectual people. Like it's a very creative. It's a great outlet.
It's a waste of talent if I leave you in the corner, or that magazine isn't seen that, and you don't meet those people. It's just so much. You realize later you had the talent, and it's like you had the creativity. You knew you had it, but it's like, man, what if you never explored it? So many people waste talent in life, and it's a shame. But it is nice to hear stories like yours, where it's like you weren't just one of the guys who fell at the waist type, side. Where a lot of guys do. A lot of guys do, and there's a lot of guys out there that you could see and go, man, you have some potential. Why didn't you ever do any of this? And it's like, nobody ever talked to them. Nobody ever gave them time of day. And here you are working at a job with them. And it's like, I never had that guy that came up to me to game.
Sure.
Right. It's like, I'm here as a cleaner at the same place you're at, and that's my life.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, that sucks. Well, let's hit a new question here, because here's another game that you had a thing for World of Darkness, not this 3rd edition. You GM'd, so I know you know the system. Tell me about your experience with it and what you enjoyed about World of Darkness, because I know you invested some time into that game.
Definitely did. I love World of Darkness. I would still hold it up there as my favorite role-playing game system of all time. I don't get to play it very often anymore, but I still hold it in high regard. So I was first introduced to World of Darkness in middle school with Dustin's group, and he got the Vampire the Masquerade book. and he tried to run Vampire the Masquerade for us, but we were too young and immature to understand what the hell was going on. And basically, we played it like the Matrix, right? Like we were just like, trench coats and katanas, and it was just ridiculous. And he ran one game of that and was like, okay, that was stupid. We're never doing that again.
That's like a horror story for people that are in that circle. Like I played it like the Matrix. They'd be like,
yeah, but we were like 12, we were like 12 or 13, so we didn't understand what the concept of this game was. What happened though, when I was about 14, my cousin was a role player, right? And he's a late Gen Xer. He's 8 years older than me. So my cousin, I discovered, was playing role-playing game. I didn't know this. Me and my cousin were like really tight. He was more like my older brother than my older cousin. So we were really tight. We grew up together. He had a big influence on me. And at one point, I discovered that he was into role-playing games. Like all of a sudden I was like, oh, you do this thing too? He's like, yeah, I've been doing this since I was a kid. You do too? And we were like, oh yeah. And we suddenly discovered we were both into this thing. And he was like, one summer I used to go over to his house every summer for like the whole summer. Right. So I go over to his house for the summer and he's like, hey dude, check it out. First thing right off the bat, check this out. It's called Vampire the Masquerade. I'm like, I've heard of this. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, well, I'm going to tell you all about it. My cousin's even more passionate than I am. My cousin.
He gave you a lore dump, right?
Oh yeah. He went into the whole thing.
The lore is what sells that game.
Absolutely. He went into the whole thing. He told me the whole lore and all the stuff. He was like,
I've never seen lore be so important to a game other than this one.
Yeah.
I find lore to be so important to that game.
And my cousin's more passionate than I am. He talks 90 miles. He's still like this, he talks 90 miles an hour and he's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And he's telling me all about it. And I'm just like soaking it all in. I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. And so that summer we played Vampire the Masquerade 101, me and him. And he was in a LARP group too. So like every weekend he was going to the LARP group and I couldn't go because I was too young. And he was getting all dressed up and doing all this stuff. He's like, sorry, dude, you're not old enough. But he would come home. We'd play Vampire the Masquerade and we were playing computer games, And so that was like my first introduction to Vampire the Masquerade. So after that, I came home with this knowledge of Vampire the Masquerade and I got the book and we started playing Vampire the Masquerade at the table. It wasn't until
now you understand it, right? Now you have a better way.
Yeah, now I understood what it's about. So like, from then on, like it became like one of these games we played every once in a while. We play like a short stint of like Vampire the Masquerade or Werewolf or Mage. We basically went through the whole gambit of World of Darkness.
They're all fun.
They're all good. Yeah.
It's hard to stick to. I get you. It's so tempting to try Werewolf and try Magic. And I did some of this myself. And
at one point, I worked at a video store, and that was our gaming group. Was all the people that worked at the video store, except for the two girls. There were two girls there that didn't play with us, and so we picked one night that they could work together, and we would all go with the manager. By the way, we'd go to the manager's house, and all of us would play role playing games. And we started playing World of Darkness because that was the manager's favorite thing. And what we did is we switched off every week who was running the game, and we played a different system. But it was in the same. It was a shared universe. So I was running Mage, and another guy was running Changeling, and another guy was running Werewolf.
Changeling,
and it was all in a shared universe. So we would talk amongst ourselves as game masters, like, "Hey, where are you going with this? What is the main thing?" And so it was like this shared world, and at the end of it, it all culminated in like a finale, and we all picked our favorite characters. We completed it, and we all picked our like favorite characters from those games, and went through like the finale, right? So that was really cool. That was actually one of my favorite like campaigns we ever played because it was such a cooperative, like shared experience, and we played that for a while. Like it was.
If you had the passion to get to the end, you're going to remember that campaign.
Yeah, it was a great game. And World of Darkness, I have a high regard for. I definitely gave LARP like a try. I've done some LARP, but it's not really my thing. I do it occasionally.
Yeah, but you're more here.
Yeah, I'm more of a theater of the mind guy. I've definitely done a lot of LARP. That's only because people have like been like, hey dude, come to the LARP. I'm like, okay. And I have a good time, but it's not my thing. I prefer to sit at the table. That's definitely more my thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, I do like to do it every once in a while, especially at conventions. Like if I go to a convention, I will go to I will do LARP because I don't do it very often. So it's like, oh, this is something I don't get to do
The
very
handy
often.
skill to pull out your ass, though.
Yeah.
It's a handy skill, like just to have some experience with it and be able to go, hey, let's do some LARPing over here.
Yeah. So when I go to a convention, I want to do stuff I don't normally do. You know, that's the thing. Like I can play D&D anytime, but do I get to play Vampire the Masquerade LARP all the time? No. So I'm gonna dress up. I'm gonna do this. Like this sounds fun. Let's do it. You know. So that's something I do maybe once a year. And there is a local LARP group here that I used to play with. That every once in a while, like maybe once or twice a year, I show up and they all know me, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna play. I'll play an NPC or I just
Cody, you sound like a guy who just doesn't throw away opportunities.
No, for sure.
I mean, you don't got 50 million of them, but it seems like if they arrive at your door, you're like, I'm ready.
Yeah. If it sounds like a good time, if we're gaming, it sounds like a good time, I'm in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, well, we're gonna jump to something I was looking into. So 2 years ago, you got inspired, and we'll get to the wargaming after this. We'll get to the war because I know you want to talk about that, and I want to hear about that. But 2 years ago, you got inspired to dig into a D6 system. I think it led you to wanting to make your own game. Now, here's where it became interesting for me. You and Chase were working on a mobster game. Even if it went nowhere, I would love to hear about what that was going to be, because I never thought of a mobster tabletop role playing game. When I heard this, I was like, I didn't even care if these guys completed it. I want to hear what that was. Like,
so you're really digging deep there. So when I got back into doing YouTube, which was 2 years ago, I was working on a role playing game. There was you know, that you would play mobsters. Now, I've always been really, really fascinated by organized crime and especially the mafia. Like I'm obsessed with the subject. There's certain things like aliens and, you know, supernatural. There's certain things that I'm like really like always been into, even if I'm not constantly tuned into it. But the mafia is like always one of those things that I have always, since I was a little kid, been fascinated with. I'm just like, wow, this is just so fascinating. You know, my dad is also into it, so I think that's what got me into it. Is he would watch like the entire Godfather trilogy every single year. And so I started sitting down and watching it with him. So now this is like a thing we both do. We yearly watch The Godfather and, you know, Goodfellas and all those movies. And then I actually started reading the history of like organized crime and the mafia. It's still like a fascinating thing for me. So I was like, man, this would be like but one day I was watching Goodfellas and I was like, man, this would be a great damn role-playing game. Like, you know, this is perfect. You know,
I'll be honest with you, I've been doing this forever. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
This is where I say, no, never have the ego to think you know everything or thought of everything. Even though it's so common. Like I when you mention, it's like, why didn't I get to that? But awesome that he did, because the second you mentioned it in the video I was watching, I was like, God, I want to hear about this thing. So, again, go on. Sorry about that.
So, you know, I kind of got the idea from watching Goodfellas for the millionth time, and I was like, oh, this would be perfect. This is like a perfect role-playing game. And I think we actually, back in the day, we did that at some point, like played like a mafia campaign with it, like GURPS or something.
Cool.
You know? And I was like, this would be a great game. So we started developing a game for it. We never got anywhere with it. I mean, at this point, I've developed probably 100 different role-playing games that I've never published or anything, you know, but that's just another one that like we actually made the rules for, we play tested it, and it never went anywhere for whatever reason. But I still think it's like a very cool idea. There has been some like mafia role-playing games, you know, TSR had Gangbusters back in the day. And then there's another one. There really isn't a lot though. Like I can only think of two. I can think of Gangbusters by TSR, and there's been a modern one. It's like an indie game called Costra Nostra, and so it looks pretty interesting. I've never played it, but it looked pretty good. I have the rules on my computer but there's not a lot of space there, and I do think that it would it's a perfect opportunity for role-playing games, because it's, you know, it's definitely, you got the whole group dynamic there. You got the whole thing where you're kind of like anti-heroes. You're not really, you're not absolutely villainous bad guys. So it still kind of like has this cohesion of a campaign that just doesn't go completely off the rails unless you're playing like Tommy from Goodfellas. But at the same time, like it is perfect for like a role-playing group. Like I think that would make a absolutely great campaign.
The campaign, yeah, totally. Yeah. When I thought about all the heads of families and the different gangs, I was like, I mean,
well, my whole concept
I think World of Darkness some of the rule set there might be very good to lean into something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. My whole concept is you're starting off with like a little gang, right? Like a little criminal gang, and then you build up to like getting into one of the families, and you get up into the ranks, and you become one of the guys becomes a made man and all that stuff. But you start off just
new threats come at you and stuff.
Yeah. It's perfect because it has this progression. It's a group dynamic. You have plenty of stuff to do. There's all kinds of interesting opportunities there. You have political machinations. You have, you have all kinds of things. Like it's perfect setup for a role-playing game.
Oh, it's something people should hear. I get the gangbuster stuff. I never looked much into it with the TSR on that.
Yeah.
But to be real with you, I know boom, but I just never personally, I never got to it. I heard about that later in life, but I just never seen that. But then when I heard you talking about it, I was like, damn. I started thinking about it that night. And I was like, well, let me talk to this guy. Just to even bring this up. Even if you got not too far away to talk about it, I thought it would be interesting. But now, go on.
We actually did get pretty far along with it, and we actually play tested it, but for some reason it just kind of like fell to the dirt. I don't know why, but it's actually a game that I do want to revisit. It's there already. So I think at some point, hopefully, maybe it'll actually get somewhere.
That'd be a beautiful thing. I mean, it just the ideas are so good, and I don't think probably Gangbusters probably didn't pull that off. And it's like, well, if there's a need, if there's a gap somewhere, man, it's too much to. Though this other game they were telling me, Costa Nostra. That'd be interesting. Is that something in that vein, or is that still?
No, it is. It's a mafia role-playing game. I think it's based in the 70s, which is really interesting because it's like kind of like at the downtail of the whole mafia thing, which I find really interesting. And it looks like a pretty decent little game, actually, from what I saw. It's just a completely little indie game. You can get it on Drive Through RPG or something. I've never played it, so I can't speak for how good it is or whatever, but it looks pretty interesting because immediately when I'm making a game, I want to see what else everybody else is doing. And I've realized that's a pretty vacant space. There's not a lot. There's really nobody.
There's content for a video in the future right there. I mean, some research done on that. I'd love to see you do a video on that thing.
Sure.
Just hear more about it. But we're going to talk about the hole in the wall now.
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't start with tabletop role-playing games.
Mm-hmm.
Your first game, as you said, is, well, at least as far as these type of games, was Warhammer 40K or 4,000 or 40,000. Sure. And you were introduced into the hole in the wall. And I think is where you met some people you thought were reasonable about D&D, and you had there was an interesting smoking woman there who was really nice. She smoked great in the shop. Go ahead. I don't want to.
Sure. Yeah. So, I got into the hobby originally, like I said, through Warhammer. I didn't really get to play Warhammer till like a couple years later because I couldn't afford it. Right. Like as a kid, I couldn't afford the miniatures. It was really expensive even then. Even back then, it was cheaper. It was cheaper back then, but people like go back and look at your old white dwarves and stuff. It still was freaking expensive, especially for a kid. So it was a couple years later, I eventually was able to get some stuff through like birthdays and Christmases and stuff like that. And I played Warhammer 40,000 second edition and Warhammer Fantasy. And that I still to this day, I love one of my favorite games, period, of any game is Warhammer 40,000 second edition. It's just such a interesting narrative, dynamic, fun game. Like I have a good time every time I get to play Warhammer 40,000 second edition. It's just a good time. I'm laughing. I'm smiling from ear to ear. We're just having a
So,
blast.
for the
you know?
people that like the
Yeah.
game like you do, what's the army you prefer?
Sure.
Go ahead, throw some nerd details
Yeah.
down.
So like
Other guys would do.
Warhammer 40,000, I've always been obsessed with the Harlequins. And so I managed all these years later. I finally, about 2 years ago, managed to paint a full all Harlequin army, old school 1980s Rogue Trader era miniatures. And I finally finished that army that I've wanted since I was a kid. So it's beautiful. I got that painted over there. But I have an Eldar. I used to have, I literally at one point I had an army for every army, but I've sold a lot of stuff over the years. I don't get to play as much as I want anymore. There's not many people that I don't care for modern Warhammer at all. Like it's just, I kind of feel the same way as I do about modern D&D. It's just not my bag. Hey, I'm glad everybody else likes it. I despise it. I don't like it. I don't have fun playing it. I don't want to play it. I don't like anything about it. I don't like the miniatures. I don't like the art. I don't like the rules. I don't like anything about it.
A lot of the I've actually heard this from a lot of the Warhammer 40K guys. And second edition it's a well liked edition.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you picked the popular one. It makes sense, though. I've heard a lot of other guys say they love second edition, and they give me almost the exact same lines you're giving me about the newer edition. And I don't want to cut off anything you have to say there, but once we dig, you say what you want to say here. I wouldn't even ask the question. I'm just going to give it to you now. Lean into something called Renaissance.
So yeah, I've always loved Warhammer Fantasy. Now Warhammer Fantasy, it was weird because like nobody liked Warhammer Fantasy around here growing up. I was like, it was never like the popular game. But I did find a few people growing up that wanted to play Warhammer Fantasy. I actually prefer Warhammer Fantasy over Warhammer 40,000. Always have, but it's hard to find. It was always hard to find people to play that. Everybody wanted to play 40K.
That's why your experience gaming is with the 40K, even though you say you like the fantasy.
I actually prefer fantasy. So I did grow. We did play Warhammer Fantasy. I started with 5th edition, and I played all the way through 8th edition, basically. And then I kind of gave up trying to play Warhammer Fantasy. I still have a couple different fantasy armies in there. And I have a couple guys that occasionally, I do have a small group that we get together and we play 6th edition fantasy. It's kind of like, okay, we kind of made like a,
so you get a little bit of feed on it.
Yeah.
You get a tiny bit out of it. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So now I kind of have some people that I can play with occasionally. We get together and we play some Warhammer Fantasy. We play 6th edition. That's kind of like the common ground. It's not my preference, but it's not the worst either. It's kind of like the 3rd edition of D&D. It's kind of like, okay, we can meet in the middle here. We can find the common ground. But what I did discover is quite a few years ago before COVID was a fan-made version of Warhammer Fantasy called Warhammer Renaissance. What this is it is a fan-made rewrite of the Warhammer rules. It is in the army list and the style and everything is in the vein of 5th edition, 4th edition, 3rd edition, like old Hammer, but the rules are more modernized. So like it took out a lot of the clunky stuff from like 5th edition and 4th edition. And it took a lot of the streamlined stuff that we all love from 6th edition, 7th edition or whatever. But it still has like the old school magic system, like the cards and all that. And it still has all the old school army lists. He brought back like the 3rd edition, like example would be the Bretonnians. You can play the chivalrous Bretonnians from 5th edition.
Yeah.
Or you can play the dirty Bretonnians from 3rd edition, like the dirty 100 years like French from like 3rd edition fantasy, right? So
it almost sounds like they're trying to prove the point to the company, like we have a better understanding of our own community than you do.
Yeah, exactly. This was a rule set built for the community. It was absolutely a fan-made passion project, and I absolutely love it. So it's free to download. You just go to the Facebook group. You do have to sign up. I know people don't like Facebook, but that's where they do it.
Yeah.
The rules and the army lists are free, and they're updated every single year. And it's totally a fan-made community thing, and it's absolutely right now it's my favorite version of Warhammer Fantasy. It's a great medium between the old school and the new school.
Well, I'll get the link from you after the show. It doesn't even have to be exact, but why this goes, it will take 24 hours to do its thing. But sometime tomorrow, you can send me that link, or even later tonight, whenever it's convenient for you, and I'll put that down in the description so people can go sign up, like you said, to Facebook and go check out Renaissance, especially if you're a Warhammer fan. And it's like, this guy did it for free. So go give some love. So you're not paying a penny, and this is for people that like Warhammer. So it's like, here's the community, people in the community that understand you. Go give some love, because it seems like the company seems to be dropping the ball right now.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the main thing about Games Workshop is they don't give a shit about the community anymore. I mean, they're just absolutely like full on corporate, just shit. All they care about is selling plastic at this point.
See.
Yeah, same thing.
Now I give you third edition was more passion play. I get the idea behind third edition was, let's make a different game, because whatever they did previously put the company out of business.
Here's the thing, though. Like the guys that were involved in third edition and same with Games Workshop were still gamers, right? Those guys were gamers. Now they're a bunch of corporate shills. It's not the same thing. They were still at least passionate about bringing out a good game. And the same,
you can criticize some of the old guys like Monty Cook, but I agree with you. He's still a gamer.
But he's still a gamer. He still wanted to make a great game. Love it or hate it, he still was trying to push like a good game. He was still like loved games, and it came out right. It came out in his game design. Whether you love it or hate it, it's still like I could tell reading one of those books. I'm like,
I'm glad to hear this from you, because it's for a guy like me. I don't know that exactly because I didn't do third edition. So, and I believe you. And the way you gave it to me, you're not the first person to give some love to third edition that I've heard from. So I do buy the gamer thing, and I do buy that third edition was at least made with some love, and I can appreciate that, even if it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah,
but it sounds like if you're a gamer who decides to go over the line and dig in, there's something there.
Yeah. Well, I will say, third edition was the first era where we saw like they kind of like sold out a little bit later on. But at the same time, those guys that started Wizards of the Coast back then, even Wizards of the Coast back then was run by a bunch of gamers at the end of the day. It's nowadays
it's corporate. It's Hasbro corporate.
Yes, it's not anymore. I mean, these are the same guys that released Talislanta back in the day when nobody gave a shit about it. You know what I mean? So
I do understand that. Yeah.
So and they didn't have to do that. Like nobody gave a shit about Talislanta, and they released Talislanta. Like,
didn't Monty Cook also? Am I wrong? Did he do because I don't know much about this game. Something starts with the numbers or something like that. Was that him?
No, I don't think that was not Monty Cook. No.
Which one was that? Because I admit
I don't know enough about it to like.
Okay, fair enough.
But I do know it's. I'm pretty sure 90% sure it's not Monty Cook. So.
Well, recently a bunch of the people have been trying to understand that alternative game, and I seen a guy have a little rough go at running it, and then they want to understand the system more. But then I got into your content and went, oh well, Cody's way ahead on this topic. Now, I don't know if you've already drove this information out there, but I'd love to hear your take on Alternity, or at least what you know about it. Anything you want to say.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Alternity was a game I jumped into right when it came out. Like, I remember the year it came out, I bought it. And I was like, oh, TSR made a science fiction game? I'm in. I bought it, and I ran it, and nobody else really cared about it at all. But again, back then, if the game master or somebody wanted to run a game, you played. And so, everybody played. We all had a good time. And I really liked Alternity. I still do. I think it's a great game. Yeah. I think it was, I honestly thought that's what third edition was going to be. Like, I thought that was the direction they were going to go with third edition. Instead, they went in a different direction, which is fine. It was a fine direction, but like at the time when that came out, I saw Alternity, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be third edition D&D, guys. Like this is where the direction they're going to go." Now they went a totally different direction. It's a fun little system. It works really well. It's a roll under system.
I
It's
get why
actually
you think that, though, isn't it? Watts, even though it's made by TSR, WotC brings out that
That's
game
right.
spirit.
So
Yeah.
it was like right at the tail end of TSR. So it was a TSR product, but Wizards of the Coast had technically bought TSR at that time. But the people that were making it were still TSR employees. And it was definitely, like, I would say, still a TSR product, though at the time. This is 1998, I guess. So, Wizards had bought TSR, but we didn't know that at the time. We had no idea. You had to, like, I mean, none of us knew that Wizards of the Coast had bought TSR.
It was very quiet.
Yeah, it was very quiet. We had no idea. So I still thought it was a TSR product. And it technically still is.
Weren't they sort of still using the logo for TSR?
They were. Yeah. If you look on the back of the Alternative book, it still has the TSR logo.
Yeah.
Still has the old dragon, they were using for AD&D.
So no wonder you're not going to think WotC.
Yeah. But nowadays, we really, if you look in the tiny print, it says Wizards of the Coast or whatever. But no, it's a great little system. It's a good game. I think it's a really underrated game. I think it's a game that got a bad rep at the time it came out because it did come out at the end of TSR, and TSR was on the massive, like, roller coaster downslide. And this is right before 3rd edition D&D. So like they were literally like nosediving, and nobody cared about TSR. Everybody saw this game and gave it a pass. And ever since then, nobody's ever gave this game like the light of day. But it's actually a decent little game. I would say if you like basic fantasy role playing, it's very similar to that. It, like, if you like what's that new game? Dragon Bane. Is that
Dragon Bane. I think
if you like Dragon Bane, Dragon Bane definitely took a lot from that concept. It's a roll under D20 system. It's a really good system. Like the difficulty numbers, instead of just being like a set thing, you roll steps of dice, right? So like if it's, you go from like D4 to D6 to D8, etc. For like, if it's easier or more difficult. So it's kind of like a random element, and you're rolling under your stat.
So is that just skills, or is that combat? Is it sort of
both? Everything is a roll under.
Everything is okay.
Yeah. So it's like the ultimate, like, AD&D second edition.
I get what you're saying. It's that back to the basics type of thing. It's more of a simplified approach where it's like this thing covers this, and this, and you don't got like 50 different systems.
Yeah, it's all roll under D20. And the other thing that set it apart is you have degrees of success, which is actually like basic fantasy, which now that I've read basic fantasy as an adult, I realized that that's where they got the idea. So you break down your stats by degrees of success. It's very, if you like basic fantasy, you'll probably like Alternity. And it's the other thing that was great about Alternity that TSR did really well, of course, was their settings. The settings for Alternity are excellent. Like Star Drive is really good. They had another one called Dark Matter, which was kind of like an X-Files near future.
Ironically, you talked about the only one I played in, which is Star Drive. I mean, I never tried the other one that you're talking about. I never even heard of it. I heard of the Star Drive thing, and I played a bit of the Alternity, but I never dug further into it.
They also did a Gamma World setting as well, which we did like, but it's not my favorite version of Gamma World. I will say, like, I'd rather play any other version of Gamma World than that. But at the same time, they did do a Gamma World setting for Alternity. So, but it's a good game. I'm glad that people are finally actually like giving it a once over.
Yeah, Bear XGM was the one really. When I realized he was hyping it up, I seen a thing where he was talking about it, and man, he was like right hot on the game, and I'm like, well, that, and other people start asking about it. I don't, if the topic gets a little hot around, it's like we should talk about that. So I was right away ready to do a stream, and I probably will do some background on it at one point. But I was like, I can't pass it up with Cody here. If it's a hot topic, I have him on for an interview, and I realized you knew the game. It's like, I'm not passing this.
Well, dude, not to toot my own horn, but like I think I'm like one of the only guys that like talked about it at all. Like,
I believe
nobody talks about Alternity, and then like all of a sudden, everybody kind of like started looking at it. I'm glad they did, because I think it is like an underlooked, underrated game, and it just came out. I think at the end of the day, it just came out at the wrong time. It was the wrong game at the wrong time. Like,
and we both say that.
If it came out like 10 years earlier, it would have been a big hit. But like at the time it came out, it was just the wrong game, the wrong time. You know,
See, we were in the golden era, but I think you would agree a lot of the golden era, it was missed because there was already failure happening.
yeah,
And you can't get attention back. Second edition, I felt, never got its fair shake. I
yeah,
felt second edition was more popular after TSR went out of business, especially in certain areas where I actually found live gaming online. A lot of people don't realize this. If they go back to the early start of third edition, you don't have it's. You go to like an open RPG program.
mm-hmm.
Half the games become third edition, no doubt. The other half is not AD&D 1 or basic, or it is second edition. And second edition kept up with third edition for a good 5 or so years after third edition came out. But remember, second edition only really got its hype, I think you would agree with me, after TSR went out of business. And what saddens me is the OSR, because I really felt this, and I said, it'd be nice when I first heard of the OSR being pushed out, I was like, it'd be nice to see second edition finally get its chance.
It's second edition. Second edition AD&D is like the redheaded stepchild of D&D. It's not the most. It's not the most like hated version of D&D, but it's not the most liked either. And the old school guys don't like the really old school guys don't really talk about it or like it. They don't want to talk about it.
Oh, the edition war starts there before third edition.
Yeah, it did. It did. And then the new school guys don't want to talk about it either. So it's kind of like in this weird place. Because it did a lot of things. It was the transition period. So it did a lot of things that both sides don't like because they're on the extreme polar opposites. But I think it's the best just because it brought all the best, to me personally, it brought like all the best elements together.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think it has a lot of flaws. I think D&D in period is not a great, if we're getting down to it, the nitty gritty, it's not a great role-playing game. It's not a great game. There's better ways to do things, but as far as D&D is concerned, old school D&D, I think it's a great addition of D&D.
I think here's where you would agree with me with old school. What saves it, like, well, Vampire is a better game, and plenty of games, some of them are better games in some cases. And you go back to D&D, and you're like, it's broken. But I'm like, yeah, but D&D did something a lot of other systems didn't do. Systems would give it to you like this. Here's what the game is, and you do it. That's it. D&D went, here's 30%. The other 70%, you can use our options. You can fix the problem. If you went over to Palladium, you could fix the problem, but it's not made that way. It's made to you run it like this. Vampires, you run. Most I found D&D is exceptional, at least the old school. At least because I found the new school started going to that do it this way, right? Like the 5e, where if you go back to old school, it's like, well, here's 30%. Now do whatever the fuck you want.
I completely agree with you that like it does. Yeah. Like you have to fill in the gaps. But the other thing I'll say about D&D is it does something that no other role-playing game does. It has like a specific way. It is like a specific way to play. You know what I mean? And there's D&D does something that no other game does, and I can't quite explain it. Like it has certain things about it that are flawed, but they're really fun, right? So like classes and levels and all this stuff, hit points. Yeah, it's kind of flawed, but at the same time, like it's very like cozy and fun, right? Like
it really is.
I like having classes. I like having levels. I like having hit points. It's not. Yeah, is it the best way to do stuff? No. Is there more efficient ways to do it? Yes. Is it fun? Oh hell yeah! It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to like start off as a level 1 party and do the same stuff every time, like go through the tropes and go through like all this grind to get to like higher levels and all the stuff that happens.
Even if you take a break, it's one of the only systems I know people constantly go back to. It's like you can play Vampire for so many years. A lot of guys don't go back to certain games, but it's if you're a D&D guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. Everybody goes back to D&D. But one thing I will say that's really positive about D&D is it forces everybody to work together. Especially old school D&D, you have to work together. It's a teamwork game. It's a social game. If you don't work together, you're dead.
Yeah, now and not just with characters, with the whole group. It's just playing the game, your team, right?
You have to play together, and it brings everybody together in character and out of character as well.
Yeah,
it's a very team dynamic game, and that's one thing I really like about D&D is you have a specific thing you're good at. Like you're the fighter, you're the wizard, you're the thief, you're the cleric. Like you do these specific things. And even though it's tropey and whatever, it's got some broken systems, it's got some archaic stuff. Like that aspect of it works really well. And I think it's something that like is carried on outside of tabletop role-playing games to every other kind of media, is that like team dynamic trope. People understand that. They're like, oh, I got a role to play. You know, I have to play this role. If I don't do my role, the whole group falls, right?
Well, a lot of the practices in D&D carry over to other games.
Yeah.
If you're a D&D player who's learned to be a good team player, if a vampire group takes you on, they're probably going to get a good player, even if you have to learn the rules. You'll be there to play team. It's what you've been developed to do.
Right.
Over to Millennium, there might be new playing guys that don't really play the team.
Yeah.
You get a D&D guy in that group, you start noticing he's there for the team. As long as they're not, there's always assholes around that you're going to meet in any hobby. I always thought that was weird to see a lot of these guys end up in the D&D world because, like you said, it is you're not a great game master without the people. You're not a great player without the great game master. It's all these things got to come in combo for things to work, even in the game with the characters. It's what makes it social, and it's a social dynamic that I think is like you said, as you were a young nerd and you were shy, but here's this D&D game, and the D&D game makes you work with people, unlike the other games that might still leave you a lot more in the corner, right? Where it's more of a team sport activity, where it's still a team thing. But you play Vampire, I play Vampire too.
Well,
it could be a lot of individuals in the circle, even though you're working, but it's all over the place, and it's meant to be.
Yeah,
that's not bad to a vampire. I'm not saying.
It's clearly, you know, like Vampire the Masquerade is a completely different thing. It's not Yes, you have to work together out of necessity, but really at the end of the day, you're doing your own little machinations. But that's what's beautiful about that game. But D&D, just one of the core strengths of D&D that over every other role-playing game in the world is it really does something really well, which is everybody has to work together. Old school D&D, new school D&D, not so much, because
we could even credit third edition with being some more old school.
Third edition does too, because it still has, to me, third edition still has like those core D&D philosophies. Even though it makes it easier, it still has those core D&D philosophies. You're still the thief, you're still the fighter, you're still the wizard, et cetera, et cetera. You still have like your specific. You can kind of like in third edition, you can kind of like dabble and some stuff, but it's not going to really, at the end of the day, it's the same thing. It's not really going to do you much good. You might as well just be a thief. You might as well just be a fighter, because that's what you're good at the end of the day.
It does. It's weird. Third edition, if you take an old school mindset to it, I've heard many people say it performs well.
That's the thing I like about third edition. It's not my favorite edition, but it still feels like D&D at the end of the day. You know, it still plays like D&D. Fourth edition is where it started to not feel like D&D to me anymore.
The video game,
it had the roles and stuff, but like fourth edition is a different animal altogether. Fifth edition was like a power hype, right? So like it's like everybody starts off at this like huge power level.
It starts to lean away from the theater.
Yeah. You know, again, if that's what you're into, hey, have at it, man. I get it. I've heard the arguments, you know, like that.
Well, that's what me. I think you would. I'm not to cut you off, but Matt Mercer sort of has a pure theater of the mind mindset and sort of old school. I'm just saying that's real, but it is weird to see him play to a crowd of people that when you see how they play 5e, it's more like a dungeon crawl miniature focus game. Mm-hmm. And you're like, Mercer doesn't even play it that way, but 5e doesn't actually promote the Mercer style.
It doesn't. No.
I found that weird.
Yeah.
Mercer plays more theater of the mind, you know, and that I was like, wow. Yeah. I don't have a big hate on for Mercer like a lot of people. I criticize some of the shit, but
I don't either. I've never been like a Critical Role hater. For one, those guys are doing it for mainly entertainment value.
Yeah.
You know, so like I understand that like this is probably, you know, you got to understand like half of this is for like entertainment and half of it is like a real game. So they're not, you know, I think Matt Mercer's fine. Like I don't have a problem with Critical Role. I don't have a problem with any of that. What I do have a problem with is that it kind of became like the standard of what people expected a role-playing game to be.
Yeah, it's the influence, and I felt here's my criticism about him. I think many times he's been an honest guy about this stuff. I've seen some interviews where but I'm like, it's not enough. You have too much influence to not, because even he somewhat agrees with you, Cody. If you actually hear some of his interviews, he actually gets that he has too much influence and he influences it the wrong way. He's like, look, I'm a gamer. I like it my way. You should like it your way.
Yeah.
But unlike the guy at home, I get it. I have attention. So then I influence more people than the guy at home. But he goes, and no matter how many interviews I say, play it the way you play, I talk to people, and this Mercer understood this. I talk to these young people that come out and go, I do it like you, or I like your, and he's like, nah, and he, but the thing is, he said in one interview, one guy said, well, what do you think of the old school? They asked him straight out. He's like, I can barely find anybody who's from that will talk to me. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, he does. Yeah. He talks to Chris Perkins.
I believe it.
Chris Perkins had TSR, but he's like, Chris, we talked a little bit, but he's like, he learned through Pathfinder. So if you go to actually Matt Mercer's history, it's almost 3.5.
Yeah.
Right.
I got to step away.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yep, not a problem. Hey, gentlemen, I hope you're really enjoying this. We could possibly be a little close to the end of things to go, right? So I have a question left for him. I think we covered just about everything, but the last one, Cody might hear this. If he doesn't, when he gets back, we're going to ask him about superheroes, because I think it's something I can't just leave. I know it's something he definitely loves, and there's so many things. Like Cody's a guy. It'd be good to have another interview with him in the future. Like when you hear the guy say he likes this and he does all these things, there are so many things this guy has invested time in that I'd love to dig into further. But I felt like I wanted to get the core things very important to Cody, but I still think there's some stuff there, and he probably would straighten me out that there's a few other things that I'm probably missing, and I'll see if he wants to bring up any of that stuff. But I'm definitely going to hit superheroes before we finish it off, because I know it's something he appreciates. Again, I think, if you don't know who GM Cody is, I feel like we've gotten to a large conversation here where you're hearing a lot about where this guy comes from. Guy's a lot of passion, and, well, you're hearing it. Very enjoyable. Yeah, we started an hour early because of his schedule. He has work. Couldn't even do it tomorrow night. And then given how late it would be if we start at 8 o'clock, so we agreed to start an hour early on Saturday. I kept telling everyone that. It's like, hey, I know some people are going to miss it, but I tried to get it out there. Hey, welcome back there, Cody.
Hey, sorry. Too much beer. Had to pee.
Not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. I definitely can't go without asking you about this, no matter what we do for the rest of the night. I'll ask you if there's anything else you want to talk about afterwards, but we got to talk about superheroes, man.
Sure.
It's something I know you definitely have some passion for.
I love it.
Yep. So go ahead, tell me your experience with superhero games and where that starts or whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, like a lot of guys here, like a lot of us nerds, I grew up reading comic books. From the earliest age I can remember, I loved superheroes and comics. I have a huge comic collection over here. I still love comics and superheroes. It's been like a ceaseless passion of mine. Like, I'm not as, I will say I'm not like an encyclopedic knowledge like Bear is about comics, but I've read a lot of comics over my life. I love superheroes. I love comics. I like the Cody
comics and the superhero comics.
Yeah, I love all kinds of comics. Like comics as a medium, I just love. Right, it's one of my favorite mediums. But superheroes specifically, I've always been like into superhero role playing games. I've always been into it right from the get go. Even in the earliest days, we played superhero role playing games. I think it started off with Marvel, the TSR Marvel. Now, when I got into TSR Marvel, it was already like outdated. My cousin got me into it because he played it as a kid, and he was like, check this out. This is a game I played when I was a kid. And so he got me the rule books and stuff. I still have the bootleg. He printed off bootleg copies for me. I still have them back there. And that's the versions we played. So the original Phase Rip Marvel TSR game, I loved. We also played the Saga edition with the cards.
Yeah.
I love that game. Again, I think that was a highly underrated role-playing game. It came out at the end of TSR. It had cards. It did a lot of stuff that, didn't catch on at the time, but I think it was absolutely fantastic game. I think it's one of the
100% agree with it was missed.
Yeah, it's absolutely a missed game. If you have not looked at the Saga Marvel card role-playing game, I highly recommend you look into it. Unfortunately, it's like kind of expensive to find now, but you can look around on the internet. You can find all the stuff necessary to play that game. So
I know you piece it together secondhand, stuff like that.
Yeah. So you could definitely piece that game together, and I highly recommend people give that game a look again, because I think that would actually be good. Like, I would love to see like a retro clone of that game, because I think it was like that good of a game that it deserves.
Monty would be considered almost owner of that, right?
I think they probably do still own it, but I don't think it would be hard to twist it. And, like technically they own like the Marvel Phase Rip, but nobody owns game rules. You can.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you could totally take the concept of that game and change a few things around and come up with your own game. To be honest, I don't think Wizards of the Coast would care, because that game was kind of a flop anyways. I don't think they would care. So I would totally love to see like a retro clone of that. And it was a great game. But we also played Champions back in the day.
There you go.
I love Champions.
Coming out.
I know like it has its haters or whatever. I don't know that I would, it does have its problems or whatever, but like I'm still very nostalgic for the hero system and Champions, just because we played it a ton back in middle school and high school. And generally, I've always loved playing superhero games. It's not something we did like constantly, like all the time, but it was always this. Superhero games were always this thing we did when there wasn't like another like regular game going on. It was
did you ever try the Heroes Unlimited?
I've never played Heroes Unlimited ever. I've never even looked at it, to be honest with you. So
well, you're a nerd. I know. You need to look at that one. Yeah, okay. I know you want to, and I know you're looking for content, and that's because I know you'll dig into it probably even better than I would. So, Heroes Unlimited is fucking great. I'm going to do a thing on it, but I think you need to know the details, and I think you'd play it. Well, I 100% believe you would. And there's more than just Heroes in it, but Heroes is the focus, right?
I love Palladium. Palladium has its problems, of course, but I'm very nostalgic for Palladium. I grew up playing all the Palladium games, but that's the one Palladium game I never gave a look at. I just kind of assumed it wouldn't be like a good fit for Palladium, but everybody talks about it. So I definitely
one of the more popular games.
It is. Yeah. But it just like, I always assumed, I was like, I don't know, Palladium with superheroes. But everybody says it's really good. So yeah, I guess I need to give it a look.
There's a few different, of course it's Palladium and Kevin, but there's a few other guys that work on the Heroes Unlimited, and I think they just brought some different gimmicks to it.
Yeah.
I think it's those gimmicks that really curb it away from what you like. Okay, this is different. This works. I think you'll find that with Heroes Unlimited. You'll dig into it.
Okay.
And some of the issues you might think from other things might be somewhat not perfect, smooth.
Yeah.
Every guy I knew just were D&D guys that would try it out. They would do what you do with D&D. Okay, maybe we got to make this change. I can fix this thing. And the next thing you know, you got a terrific game.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about superheroes. It's like it's one of those genres that everybody really needs to be like invested in the idea of what we're playing. If you're not, it's not going to be a good game. There's certain games that you have to be like 100% into the idea. Like I can name a few off the top of my head, like superheroes, Star Trek. Star Trek's a big one. Like I love Star Trek role-playing games. But you have to be invested. Everybody has to be invested in the idea we're playing Star Trek. If you're not, it's not going to be a good
Especially if you don't know Star Trek at all. You need to understand a bit of the lore. It's almost like a I think you'd agree, a World of Darkness gimmick where
Mm.
you can't really appreciate the World of Darkness. Like you said, it's the Matrix, but it's that lore dump that is
Well,
so important to
World
all
of
you
Darkness, World of Darkness is a little bit different, actually. I
Oh,
would
okay, fair
disagree.
enough.
I would disagree
Okay.
with you there because I think actually World of Darkness works really good with people that don't know the lore because that's kind of the idea. Like,
Yeah.
especially if you're playing a vampire, like that's a really fun to introduce all that stuff as you're playing, right?
I would
So
say
you
the
become a
game
vampire.
master. I
Yeah,
would say
yeah.
at the end of the game master, the lore dump becomes important. I get what you're saying. Like to the player, their
Oh,
ignorance is okay.
the game master needs to 100% be behind it, and the
So
players
I think
do
that
too.
might have flopped
Yeah,
on you because if your game master, I'm not saying Dustin was bad, obviously a
yeah,
good guy, but he reads through it and tries to jump you in right quick. But when you go to your cousin, he's going to run a bit of it for you, but he understands lore dump. And as long as he understands it in a way you don't need to, but now he can get you into the experience that the game is meant to give to you. If you give it to
right.
a Dustin who's trying to
Yeah,
read the book right fast and he tries to run it, if you don't really know the lore dump, I say, so I agree with you there. But I agree the difference with Star Trek. You get over to Star Trek, it's
yeah.
lore dump is necessary even for the player. Where I'd agree
You
that,
need to
you
know.
got it right. You got it right on that.
Yeah, like Star Trek, you
Yeah,
need to know a little bit about Star Trek.
a
You don't have
little
to be
bit.
an expert, but you like at least need to know what the concept of like Star Trek is and be
Did you watch a
invested.
couple episodes at least?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
it. That's all you need to know. And then
that's
like
really
you
it.
just need to be invested into the idea of it. Same
You
with
got to like it.
superhero. Yeah,
Yeah,
same with superheroes. Like superheroes instantly fail when people aren't invested into the idea of the game. Now there's like superheroes, there's a dozen different concepts you can have in a superhero role-playing game,
yeah.
but everybody needs to be on page what that concept is. Otherwise, it's not going to be a great game. It's going to be
No, I
terrible. It's going to
agree.
fall flat right on its face right then.
But what you
You know?
would say is when you finally get the right group,
Oh, it's great,
the
dude.
experience is so worth having that you're like, there might be bumps in the road, but man, there's some magic when you get to the
Oh
right
man,
place with this.
yeah.
Right?
When you do superheroes right, it's a great experience, right?
Yeah, I've heard Bear XGM does a lot of great work with the
Mhm.
superhero gimmick he's been doing, and I think he's probably got his players like where you say where they're at least invested in what he's doing, which is really important.
Well,
Invested in
if you want to talk superhero role playing games,
really.
Bear is the expert. I'm just going to say it
Yeah,
right.
no, I
He
agree.
really is. He understands it backwards and forwards. He's the
He,
dude as far as like superhero role playing games. He's ran the best superhero role playing games I've ever played in. He understands how to run those games the best out of anybody I know, and he understands the genre better than anyone I know. He
I
just
haven't
has,
heard a nerd
yeah,
talk about it as well as he does.
he just that's the one
Yeah,
thing. Like Bear, that's his thing.
100%.
Like
Yeah,
100%. Like if
yeah,
like he might, he's probably not listening right now, but he might at some point. Like he'll probably
yeah.
be like, "Oh no, yeah, yeah, I was."
No,
He's
he
gonna
really
probably
is.
say, "I'm gonna
He
get."
deserves that.
He deserves it, and I
Yeah.
don't know if he likes it or not, but regardless, whether he likes it or not, he's good at it, and he is, in my opinion, the
Well,
expert
let me say
on.
this really quick
Yeah,
to Bear X. I'm not your best friend, dude. I don't
yeah.
blow smoke up anyone's ass for no reason. So if I'm someone who's not your best friend saying, yeah, you got real credit on this, well, here's someone not Cody. Cody's going to say nice things to you. I
Well,
might not, but at least I'm honest. And to say honest, I think that guy knows his shit. I've listened to your Bear X on the superhero stuff.
I
Everything
don't.
Cody's saying is right.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's the thing about me.
100% agree.
I don't blow smoke up people's asses. Like I only
Same.
say I give credit where credit's due. Like if you're not good
Yeah,
at
fair
something,
enough.
I'm not going to tell you you're not good at something.
Yeah, true.
He's good at running superhero games. He understands the genre.
Yeah,
And as far as like if you want to talk to somebody, and hopefully he will come on and talk to you about that, because man,
I've invited him on. Yeah,
he could talk for 3 hours or more about just running a superhero game. He understands that
I'd love
backwards
him
and
to
forwards.
come talk about his gaming, his games. Uh, I know he's made some changes and going to Patreon and that. It's like, dude, like come here, talk about it. Let's get it more out there. That's fine. And I feel for him because I'm also someone who's put out a game recently, and some of the AI art criticism I've gotten is something similar to what he's went through.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so in a way, I can relate with him with putting a game out there and getting heat from people.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a shame because it's like, dude, like you're back in the old school without investment, we'd get no Palladium, no World of Darkness, no nothing. And I don't mind OSR clones, but they're not new games. They're settings, extensions for games that are already made. No disrespect. I think it takes work, and I think they have their place. But I look at something like he's doing, go, the hobby dies, and we lose all these games if you don't invest. And back in the day, you'd hear old school guys go, I play all these different games like you, Cody, right? Mm-hmm. But that means you're investing in all these other things. And you even say, I got the copies of this, the piece of paper. No one's looking for perfection because we all know that the money is the text in the game, right? Because the second edition, I don't mind the art, but most of the art doesn't even reflect what you're actually going to do. I mean, it's neat to look at, but when you get to the table, doesn't matter how nice the pages are either. The only thing you're worried about is the game and the text, right? And it's like, so give us a break on the art shit. Just, and don't, I get mad at some of the guys out there because I feel like they'll complain and be like, does it help the hobby to not bring in new games?
Well, here's the thing. Short stint on AI. Like short stint on AI art. Like, so I'm an art dude. I love art. Like if it were not for art, I probably would have not got into gaming. That's what drew me in. We talked about that. Like, when I was talking about my origin story, the thing that got me was that piece of art on the magazine. I was like, oh man, dude, I want a piece of that. And I still feel that way when I see like great art, like on a role playing game or anything. I'm like, dude, I'm in,
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's not the end all be all of
we'll go back to the original D&D. Original D&D doesn't have the art. It doesn't have all these pretty things, but it's a great game. And you need the investment from the customer for you to get the art later.
Here's the other thing, right? Like, so the white box is also pirated art, right? So like it had dudes, like a lot of the art in there is like traced art from comic books and stuff.
Yeah.
So this is really AI art, right? Like it's the same kind of thing. So if it wasn't for like pirated art, we wouldn't have D&D, right?
So do I, but like me and Barracks, I think we both tell customers, like, if you invest money in, well, fuck, we'll go pay the artist. But in some cases, I think he is paying artists, but they can be so screwy.
Well, artists are expensive. They're finicky. They're hard to work with. They're flakes. Like, I'm just being real because I've had to deal. I'm an artist too.
Like if you had Hasbro's money, it's a different story. But we don't have Hasbro's money.
That's the thing. I'd rather see. I'm with you. I'd rather see more of people's ideas and invest in those ideas than a bunch of art pieces, right? Like if you just need to do what you need to do to get your thing out there. I really don't care. I really don't care. And here's the other thing is the only people this really threatens are the people that aren't really that great of artists to begin with. If you're a great artist, like the Larry Elmores of the world are not threatened by this.
They're still making money.
They're still making money. People are still like, he's retired. Larry's still like retired and he's still selling art pieces for a shitload of money. Because we all know Larry Elmore's a fucking high quality artist. Like I will pay for Larry Elmore because he's a real artist.
Yeah.
This guy that, he's okay. He's turning out like kind of mediocre art pieces for like OSR games or whatever. In 30 years, none of us are going to remember that guy. There's a couple. No, I'm not saying there's not guys in that sphere that are great, because there are. There's some guys in that sphere that are really good artists that have earned their name, that are real good and everything. They're on that level, Larry Elmore.
They're going to get work.
Yeah, they're good. But that's the thing. Like, they're not threatened by this. Like, they're going to get work because they have a style. They have a thing. They're an artist, and people respect them for what they have and are going to pay them for their skills and ability.
And AI still can't make something with soul.
That's it. Right. Like I'm a musician, right? Like I'm not threatened by AI music because I know I don't want to listen to AI music because it doesn't have the soul 100%. Or passion what a human being can bring to a record, right? Like,
it feels so empty.
It feels it. The minute I listen to an AI song, I know it's AI. I can recognize, that's AI.
Go back and right away I turn on some old music, right? And it's like right away you're like, oh, like real old music, and you're like, oh, there's some real like Bon Jovi or some even older stuff. You know what I mean? Like a Creedence Clearwater.
Oh yeah,
and you feel it.
Yeah,
you feel it.
You can feel the soul, and you can feel the passion.
AI does not do that. I've not seen it achieve that yet.
It cannot replicate that. Now it's getting, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's, it's getting better. It's getting close, whatever. But at the end of the day, there's still something to be said for like authentic.
Well, I think it could pull off like the video game music that you hear, that some of the cooler stuff, boom, boom. Now, some of the stuff is amazing that people made. Don't get it wrong. I still think some game like Final Fantasy VII, I think is some of the best fucking music I've ever heard on a game.
Amazing.
And that's made by people, and you feel that just like some real music. But I imagine the AI could make some gamey sound that sounds pretty good, and that you feel a little bit something, or it become nostalgic to you. But I still, and like I agree with you, it is close and it's work, but that's AI. AI is so close to everything, and I don't think we can't win that race.
But at the end of the day, I think there's something innate in human beings that are going to still want and yearn for the human soul. So even if AI gets to the point that it can do better than human beings, I still think that human beings are still going to want and long for the creative soul and passion of other human beings.
You might agree with this, like older movies instead of all the computer graphics. I like older movies where they had to do the horror movies where you have to cut the up, and they have to do the thing and make
dude, I'm all about it. I love
that stuff.
I love, I'm a big horror movie fan, and my favorite horror movies are stuff from back then.
Yeah,
specifically Italian horror, right? It's like extremely gory, but it's all practical effects from back then.
So awesome.
All practical, Yeah, it's awesome. Like see how they did, like, and I want it. It's almost like a magic trick, like going to like a magic show, and you're like, how did they do that? That's awesome. It's cool as heck. And that like some dude set that up, like, and it came up the idea of how they did that, and it took hours and hours and multiple takes to do it. And
I wish they still did it. It's a lost art, but I'm like,
it is.
Why? Yeah. Like, it still looks great to me to this day. I showed younger people, like, check out this old movie. I'm like, look at how that doesn't look like it's off a computer, man. That looks fucking wicked. Like, it looks something, again, like you said, the computer to this day stuff can still feel nothing. Like,
it doesn't.
Another big cut off, whatever.
Yeah.
But you feel the gore. You feel the gore.
It's visceral. It's real. Even if it's fake, it's still visceral, right? Like an Evil Dead, right? Like where, like Ash is cutting off his hand and blood is just spraying all over.
It's meant to be like depressing real death that would, like in real life, if you see someone, you're just like, someone get killed or something, like it just does not sell to you. But this is not meant to be real life. It's meant to be cool.
It's fantasy. It's fiction. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's the same thing. It's just immersion. It's not supposed to be real, Yeah.
Well, GM Cody, did you enjoy the interview?
Oh, yeah. Man.
I had a great time. And I really feel like, of course, I got to know you through your videos, but that is like the empty thing with the AI. Mm-hmm. Talking to you made me feel like I've really gotten to know a lot more about you. But combo that with the videos. Yeah. I know you got to get to know me a bit, but shit, it feels like I know you.
Oh, for sure, man. Look, I've really appreciated you having me on. I love to talk about games. Especially love to talk about games with people that are passionate about games too. I can tell you are as well. I don't really know you that well, but I've got to know you a little bit better in the past 2 hours. Yeah. And it's been a good talk, man. I really appreciate you having me here.
I hope we do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want me on back again, just let me know.
100%. Yep, I really will. And probably later this year, some of the guys that I'm bringing on early in the year, I'm going to ask if they want to come on, maybe even do a panel with some of you, like you, DM Bloodworth, right? And Max Leal to come on, because I got DM Bloodworth coming on the 22nd. So maybe have the three of you, and maybe even if Mirror XGM comes on and talks to me about superheroes, it could be the four of you close to the end of the year where we do a couple hour stream together. It'd be great. And I'll share this link with you. Like, I have to let it process. I'll send you the co-link so you can post that all on your stuff or whatever you want to do. Yeah. But yes, guys, I hope everyone enjoyed the stream. I had a great time. I hope you got to know Cody. And for you out there that already know him, I hope you just realizing this is why you love the guy, because he's a great guy. All right. You all take care. We'll talk to you some other time, some other panel, some other stream. Talk to you then.